Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are here and live. It is Wednesday, November 5th, a couple days into November, and we are live for the Open. Folks, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We had a ton of earnings yesterday that we are going to get into. We had a ton of elections happen yesterday where the Democrats had pretty much a clean sweep across the entire country, including New York City. Zoran is now the mayor of New York. So we have that took place last night. Last night, if you were looking at your portfolio in the overnight markets, call it around 8:30 to 9:30 p.m., it was a bloodbath. It was ugly. And like, I started getting texts from people like, yo, what is happening? Why? Why is it dumping so bad? I didn't have any idea. By around 11 p.m., after most of the elections were called, we pretty much recovered. Now, we didn't recover entirely, but there was a decent level of recovery that got rid of the extent of that bloodbath. Ethereum was very close to going below 3,000 during that time. Bitcoin did go below 100,000. And Ethereum right now at 3,350, which I know is not near anywhere where it was over the past month, but at least it's not below 3,000. And Bitcoin right here making a rebound above 102.8, which is also not as bad either, given it was at like 99 last night. So if you just slept early last night and didn't look at your portfolio, you didn't see some of the carnage that was happening, and now you've had a little bit of more of a recovery. But nonetheless, I think some of the instability or volatility of not knowing what would happen in the elections was resolved. And as a result of that, you got a lot more, not excitement in the markets, but just general like, hey, we don't have to be that afraid. And sort of my working theory around this is that Democrats sweep last night across pretty much every state, including my home state, New Jersey. And I think what that showed the Republicans is they're going to have to reopen the government and negotiate with the Democrats, because at this point, if the shutdown continues to happen and the Democrats had a clean sweep last night across the entire country, you don't want to risk the midterms and losing the House and the Senate. And the longer the government is shut down and the more opportunity Democrats have to pin this on the Republicans, even though Republicans are pinning it on the Democrats, it just creates more volatility on potentially losing the midterms. And as a result, that would not be good for the party in power. And so maybe the market's kind of pricing in, hey, this is a kick in the ass to everybody to say the government's got to reopen, and the government reopening could be the tailwind to get the market to not be, as scared as it was before. So I think that's kind of what's going on right here, but we'll talk more about it. We got AMD earnings from yesterday, SMCI earnings. We'll talk about that. Lemonade absolutely crushed it this morning. We'll get into that. Lemonade right there deserves to be up 14%. I mean, absolutely incredible. It was absolutely an incredible earnings from Lemonade. And so wasn't too bad to kind of see those results. We had a bunch of other earnings, McDonald's, et cetera. S&P is slightly green, 675.85. SoFi right there up. SoFi was like below 29 last night. Now it's above 29.81. Grab right there at 581. NVIDIA up 0.5%. NVIDIA got down to like 190. Palantir got down to like 181. I mean, you're just seeing a bunch of different rebounds. Robinhood earnings are today. I'll be live at 3:30 with Roy and Tanner. This is going to be a big one today. We had Palantir on Monday. They crushed it. Robinhood is going to be today, so this is going to be a very big one. We got a lot of other companies besides Robinhood as well, so we'll be covering that all on earnings. And then Tesla, the shareholder vote is tomorrow. Tesla right there at 451. Very nice to see. That's up 1.5%. So you have a green pre-market. Will this green pre-market continue? Who knows? But at least we do have some green after yesterday, which yesterday, by the way, I mean, again, if you just didn't pay attention to the markets yesterday, you probably didn't notice, but $250 billion in the crypto markets were liquidated. And the fact that $250 billion were liquidated in the crypto markets, obviously that caused a lot of pain across a variety of industries. I still don't know why there was that much crypto liquidation. I don't know if it's leverage, if it's people that were just panic selling, but if you take a look at this screen right here, everything got hit. So the fact that we're even getting somewhat of recovery today is encouraging to see. But yeah, yesterday was a bit of a bloodbath. It seems like we're getting a little recovery, and we're going to cover the rest of the earnings throughout the day and see if this can continue as we get into the end of this week. All right, so let's get started. Again, thank you everybody for being here. I think we'll just get started real quick on the election results, and then we'll keep going from there. Again, Democrats had a clean sweep. Mamdani is the new mayor of New York City. In January, he will be sworn in as the mayor. It was quite incredible to see. I did watch his victory speech last night. I will definitely say the tone of the victory speech was very braggadocious. I think objectively, it was not one of those humble, hey, let's bring the city together. It was, mother effer, we won. This is a new city. This is a new paradigm of thinking of politics. And quite frankly, there was a very strong class-focused message in the speech. I mean, he was quoting famous socialists of the past as references for trying to make the argument that he was making, which I thought was quite incredible. I mean, Mamdani, from what I've seen in a lot of different videos and clips, is more so this like guy who's like nice and just trying to be your friend. This one was like, quite literally, this one was like, we are going to take over the capitalist class. And to an extent, it almost literally sounded like that in certain moments. So I thought that was quite incredible. I didn't expect the speech to be as aggressive as he went for. But the speech was, hey, this is the time for working class people. Working class people decided to make a decision to go in a direction that is explicitly for them. And now it's going to take a few years to see if there's any level of progress that matches the reality or matches the ambition of what Mamdani has been saying over the past couple of months. These are the demographics. So if you look at it by gender and age, you had men 18 to 29, 68% of them went for Mamdani, and then women 18 to 29, 84% of them went for Mamdani. So you're talking about millennial men and women, and then we're going to get a lot more cohorts of race and gender and demographics over the coming days in terms of how the vote ended out. But dude, the vote was called. If you were looking at the coverage, the vote was called within like 5 minutes. Because New York, first of all, New York is known for historically low election voting turnout. So I think 2 million people voted, which was like a record, at least over the past couple of decades for these mayoral elections. And within 2 minutes, as soon as they got most of the boroughs, the Bronx was the last borough. Bronx is the most heavily Democratic borough in the city. It was Mamdani's race. It was it. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it was a mandate because Cuomo got 42% of it. Mamdani had like 51, and then Silva had like 7. So even if Silva had left and all that went to Cuomo, but Cuomo still would have lost. But it would have been like a 3 or 4% margin by which Mamdani would have won. It would have been a lot closer. And so I wouldn't say it's a full-on mandate like Trump had, by winning almost every single swing state literally every single swing state in 2024. But nonetheless, it was New York making an entirely new way of thinking in regards to how they're going to govern themselves. And Mamdani is now the mayor of New York. So there you go. What does this mean for the markets? Quite frankly, it added a lot of clarity to the markets last night. And realistically, before the markets or before the elections were called, the markets were dumping. I think the market just wanted some clarity. I really do. And the fact that we got clarity last night relatively quickly, you saw the markets rebounding, or it could mean nothing for the markets. And it was just convenient that algos started going back and forth during the election. And that was some of the election volatility. But I don't know if it says much about the election. At the end of the day, the mayor of New York has to govern with or has to work with the governor of Albany to be able to get anything done if he wants to actually get free buses or free healthcare or childcare or raise taxes on the rich. Like, you're really going to need to work with New York State, not just the New York City State Assembly, because they don't have that much power. And so it's now going to be a couple years to see if Mamdani can carry out this overall policy. Bill Ackman, who's been very against Mamdani, he tweeted yesterday, 140 characters, very simple. Mamdani, congrats on the win. Now you have a big responsibility. If I can help in NYC, just let me know what I can do. So although he was vehemently against this guy winning, he's ready to help New York City. And, Bill Ackman's a native New Yorker. He obviously loves the city, wants to be in the city. He's likely not leaving to Miami. But that is the approach that Ackman is taking now based on this election. So there you go. That's what we got. That's what happened last night, and markets seem to be moving on from it. And now we will move on to midterms going into 2026. Okay, private ADP payrolls. We got that this morning. I forgot we were getting this number, but we got it. 42,000 versus 22,000 expected. Not too bad. It follows a 29,000 decline in September. So you have some level of stability to the upside in the labor market. The market thought we would add 22,000 jobs on the private payroll sector. October ADP showed we added 42,000. Again, we had a 29,000 decline in September. So although we don't have labor market data from the government, we don't have a variety of different tools like JOLTS or jobless claims from the government, we do have some of this third-party data, which is signaling that maybe the reports are not as bad. Let's get a little bit of coverage on this, and then we'll keep going from there.
The ADP private payroll data, it's just out. Steve Leisman joins us with those numbers.
What a thought. Fantastic. ADP is saying that private payrolls grew by 42,000 in the month of October, with a decent split when it comes to by sector. Goods producing up 9,000, service providing up 33,000. This is a question, is this the new normal we have to get used to? Is a relatively lackluster number that because we don't have the labor force growth, is this a good number relative to the labor force growth? We don't know because we don't have the unemployment size. What I don't, the household survey, what I don't like is how we got here. And this is something that's a bit of concern here. Small businesses, less than 50 workers, losing 10,000. That is the third month in a row that they have lost workers here. Medium size down 21,000, and large over 500. That's where the job gains are. I have a concern anecdotally that this is a potential tariff effect here, where small business is being hurt. Also, perhaps at the consumer level, what's going on. Look.
So that's the jobs report. Now, again, some people are saying, is this good news, is bad news? And the reason you would say it's good news, is bad news is because the reason we need a rate cut is because the labor market is weakening. So if the labor market is strengthening, wouldn't this oppose the ability to get a rate cut? And I don't really think that's the case. This was a good report. This was not a phenomenal report. So what I mean by that is this was not like, oh my God, we added 500,000 jobs. This is, we added 44,000. And as you saw the breakdown right there, small businesses less than 50 employees actually lost jobs. And the only businesses that added jobs were businesses above 500 employees. And small businesses at the end of the day are the backbone of the country. So if you do have small businesses that are hurting and likely cannot afford the cost of capital because rates are too high, they can't continue to employ people. If that effect continues to compound across the entire country, I mean, obviously, you're going to get a lot more labor market weakness. So this was a good report in the fact that if we had a negative jobs number, it would signal that we really need a rate cut. We still really need a rate cut. It's just not as dire of a situation as if we have like negative 500,000 jobs. Because if that's the case, then we have an underlying problem in the economy, and rate cuts probably are not even going to solve that, because you need a year for rate cuts to even have any level of meaningful impact. So I think it was a good report. It was not the best report, not the worst report, but it was enough of a report, I think, to reinforce this argument that we are going to continue to see a December rate cut, even though Jay Powell and the Fed want to signal as much caution as they can. We're likely getting that December cut. And it is important that we continue to get that cut. Okay, earnings. Let's get into it. So we had a lot of earnings today. First of all, let's just real quick do AMD. AMD crushed it, in my opinion. I don't think AMD had a bad earnings. We covered it live with Jose and Neil. 244, it's down about 2%. Revenue was up 36%. They beat on EPS. The guide was a bit stronger than expected. They did get questioned on the earnings call on what exactly they can give in terms of details on the guide, and they weren't able to really give those details because they're going to have some investor event next week. So they're saving a lot of that information for next week. But overall, 3% beat on EPS, 6% beat on revenue. Revenue's up 36% year over year, EPS up 30%. I thought it was a pretty good quarter. And I don't think there was anything to be concerned about in the quarter itself. It wasn't some massive Larry Ellison Oracle type of RPO growth that was up like 300-400%. So they're kind of baking in the Oracle, the OpenAI guidance, but not legitimately showing a lot of those numbers. Because if they were to legitimately show it, they'd be guiding for revenues of minimum of like 35-40%, but they're guiding for about 25%, which is reasonable. It's way better than the 14% data center revenues that they had last quarter. And so, the stock is relatively flat. Now, again, the stock moved from 150 to 250 after that OpenAI deal. So it's not moving that much anymore. Same thing with Palantir, right? Made a big move. It's relatively flat compared to where it was a couple weeks ago. So I don't think anyone who's an AMD should be that upset, because your big move, your real Super Bowl happened a month ago when they announced the OpenAI partnership. Once that was announced, that really was the move. And if it goes higher, that's great. But if it goes lower, you can't be that ungrateful, given it added, $100 billion in market cap in a month based on that OpenAI partnership. And they don't even have any revenue from OpenAI. So the fact that the streets are willing to give it a multiple itself, I think is pretty decent. Dav says it's holding. We'll take that. Yeah, I think that in and of itself is enough. CrowdStrike and CoreWeave announced a global partnership to power the secure AI cloud foundation for the agentic era and accelerate towards secure AGI. The amount of buzzwords in that headline. Goodness gracious. Agentic era, secure AGI. Oh boy. Well, let's see if CrowdStrike is pumping. Nope. CrowdStrike's flat. CoreWeave's up a little bit. CoreWeave and Nebius got hit yesterday, along with the other data center plays. A lot of those are recovering in the pre-market. Nebius right there, 114, did fall to 108. Where's Iren? Iren fell to 62. Iren 69.64. So that's up in the pre-market. And then CoreWeave is up a little bit as well. All right, so that's what we had for AMD. Earnings this morning, what do we have? And let me know if anyone owns any of these names. So let's start off with some of these companies. Lemonade crushed it. They beat by 27% on EPS. EPS is up 46% year over year. Revenue's up 42% year over year as they beat revenue by 5%. Congratulations to those who have Lemonade. Absolutely incredible. If you take a look at this chart right here. Premiums are up 30%, customers are up 24%, and their gross loss ratio is down 11%. They did all of this while operating expenses included growth of just 10% since 2022. So Lemonade absolutely deserves the momentum that they're getting right here in the pre-market, up 17%. Also, this is only a $5 billion company. So I know they're not profitable yet. It looks like they're on path to getting to profitability. They're about 51 cents away from officially becoming profitable. But it does seem like as they continue to scale that business model, and maybe it's worth looking into a lot more at, a $5 billion market cap. I know AI, we did a deep dive on this a long time ago. AI is kind of the tailwind that their CEOs talk about, mixed at the intersection of how they underwrite for insurance. It looks like they executed in those earnings. Were not too bad at all. Yeah, congrats to everyone who has Lemonade. I see a lot of people that have Lemonade in the chat. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. McDonald's, they missed by 3%, 322 versus 333 expected on EPS, and then 7.0 versus 7.09 on revenue. Revenue's up 3% year over year. EPS is down year over year. McDonald's stock is actually up. So I didn't hear everything they said in the call or in guidance, but I think the one thing they did say was same store sales are up year over year by like 3%. So it's not like that bad, even if the top line numbers are not the best. But McDonald's not really signaling the type of destruction that Chipotle signaled, and to an extent, Kava signaled last night about the demographic that is more low income, not being able to afford food. Theoretically, because McDonald's should be cheap enough, definitely cheaper than Kava or Chipotle. But that stock right there, 1.75%, slightly green in the pre-market. Ripple announces $500 million investment led by Fortress Citadel Securities. Oh, wow. Steve's going to love that. Okay. Is that moving XRP price? XRP, it's up a little bit. Nothing too crazy, but it's up a little bit. There you go. Ripple getting a $500 million investment. We haven't heard that much about Ripple ever since like stablecoins became more mainstream, because I feel like the entire use case of Ripple, or at least the way I understand it from Steve, was cross-border payments. And I feel like that's kind of happening with stablecoins on a lot of other blockchains, not just Ripple. So I guess we're going to see over time if that ends up playing out. Unity, they crushed it as well. 18%. They beat 20 cents versus 17 cents expected, and then 470 versus 453 million expected. They beat by 4%. Revenue's up 5% year over year. EPS is up 5% year over year. Again, another name that just continues to beat on the top and the bottom. We don't have the exact aggregated stats of how many companies have beat top and bottom, but it's a decent amount. I would argue it's a minimum 50%, probably closer to 75 to 80% of companies that have beat on the top and the bottom. Unity right there up 18% in the pre-markets. Wow. Unity and Lemonade. And this is the healthy part of a bull market. If you can double beat and really give some good earnings, you're going to get rewarded. If you can't, you're going to get crushed. And these companies are showing that they can, even if they're not the biggest companies in the world, which is very important. SolarEdge, they beat as well, negative 31 cents versus negative 42 cents, 340 versus 336. They beat by 1%, 26% beat on EPS. Revenues up 44% year over year. EPS is up 98%. Now, we know that Enphase got hit a couple weeks ago on their earnings. SolarEdge is down 6%, even with a pretty good beat on the top and the bottom. The solar stocks, realistically, for the past 2 years have just not been where you want it to be. And this administration is not really embracing them, even though we all know that we need a lot of energy. SolarEdge right there, still down about 7% on the day. So those were the most of the earnings that we had this morning. We did have SMCI yesterday. I don't know why SMCI got as crushed as it did, but they missed. But it's kind of like the preliminary results they gave 2 weeks ago were telling you they were going to miss, and analysts were still upset that they missed, and so stock went down. So SMCI right here, a very volatile stock, 4360. That's down about 8% after those numbers. And then Zeta, they also beat on the top and the bottom line. Zeta up 11%. This was a pretty good earnings as well. I mean, you had a lot of these smaller companies under 20 billion that are putting up results that are necessary to justify not only their growth multiple, but to continue getting a growth multiple. Zeta right there beat by 11% on EPS, 20 cents versus 18 cents expected, and then 3%, 337 versus 327. And so Zeta continues to crush as well. The one stock that got really wrecked yesterday was Axon. And I think this is just because the valuation had too much of a premium focus, down 21% right here. These guys sell body cameras, primarily to police officers. They missed on EPS by about 20%. And, their stock was just trading at a pretty aggressive multiple. You can't miss on EPS when it comes to this type of stuff. I think this dip ends up getting bought. It's not really a retail favorite, less than 1 million shares traded per day, but institutions love the name. So unless there's any structural problem with their business, which based on reading the report, it just seemed like they had a bad quarter. It doesn't seem like it's a bad thing for the overall sector. Axon might be okay. But that one definitely did get hit yesterday as well. So that's what we got with some of the earnings, and that's pretty much what we got yesterday. I'll put the green or red poll right here in the chat. Yesterday we started out red, went a little green, and then we had pretty bloody red towards the end of the day. Today we're starting out green, and we're going to see if we can hold or end out green. I think the reason people were so confused yesterday, not even worried, but just annoyed, is because no one had a reason. No one had a real reason why we were as red as we were, right? And maybe it was the Michael Burry thing, but no one really understood why things were as bad as they were. And you could chalk it up to algos or whatever, but I think the lack of a actual explanation is what was kind of annoying people. And, we're kind of recovering here. So it's not like it's as aggressive as it was last night, but I do think that was the part that made people think, okay, what the heck is going on and why are things as bad as they are? But S&P 500 right here at 675.55, a little bit of recovery. AMD right here down 1.8%. Google as well, trying to get back up to 280. It's because we're overvalued. Again, I think certain pockets of the stock market are overvalued. But if you're going to tell me that Meta at 20 times earnings is overvalued, they almost took Meta below 600 last night. In the overnight markets, it was at 610. I don't know, dude. It already had a pretty big drawdown. I don't know if it needs to go to 550 for the market to be yeah, this is too cheap to ignore. A company doing 200 billion in revenue. But regardless, I guess we're going to have to ultimately see how the market interprets what we got going on. So this is what we have right here in the pre-markets. Again, we are relatively green. We got some quotes by Trump. He is speaking right now at a Republican breakfast. Number one, Trump says the stock market will hit more record highs. Stock market has hit many record highs in the last months. The shutdown is impacting the stock market. We also had Putin respond to Trump. Putin on Trump's statement about nuclear tests. It's a serious issue, will be directed by the actions of the United States. Russian defense minister says U.S. is building up strategic weapons. U.S. could also destroy global strategic safety if they abandon nuclear test moratorium. Trump did say on 60 Minutes on Sunday that they are going to restart their nuclear tests because they know that Russia and China are restarting those tests. And as a result, they want to continue testing their nuclear weapons as well. So you have Putin responding to that this morning, and then you have Trump talking about the stock market continuing to be at record highs. Okay, let's talk about tariffs, because today is officially the day that the Supreme Court is going to start hearing the challenges to the Trump administration's tariff policy. Trump has said this would be the worst thing for the history of this country if we did not have the tariffs continue to be upheld by the Supreme Court. So here's a little bit of coverage on that, and then we'll keep going from there.
People online are betting during the White House press briefing on the next word that Caroline Leavitt will say. And one guy had bet $700 that the next word was going to be China. And I asked her a question about China, and he was celebrating online and tweeting it out and screaming. He was live streaming himself betting.
You asked her
No,
a question.
I didn't, but this opens up a whole new revenue stream for me, right?
Crazy places.
Scott Bessent is expected to be seated in the front row today, and President Trump says he believes this is going to be one of the most important decisions ever made by the Supreme Court. Now, a very large part of the tariffs that the president has enacted this year are on the line in this decision. The Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court, where, remember, Trump has appointed 3 of 9 members, to reverse a ruling from a lower court that found that most of the tariffs are an illegal use of the International Economic Emergency Powers Act. Trump has used that law to impose what he called his fentanyl tariffs, his Liberation Day tariffs earlier this year. An estimated $90 billion in tariff revenue hangs on the high court's ruling here. Treasury has said it most likely would have to send that money back this year if the Trump administration is to lose this case. Now remember, the Constitution gives the power to impose tariffs and taxes to Congress. No president before Trump has used this 1977 law to put tariffs in place, but the law does allow a president to, quote, regulate imports of property owned by a foreign country or foreign national. Now, the White House says that's enough to allow these tariffs, but the businesses that are suing the administration argue that the power to regulate is not the same as the power to tax, and therefore the tariffs should be struck down. We'll see what the court has to say about all this at about 10 a.m. this morning. And by the way, guys, the companies that are suing the administration here, not the big global conglomerates that you might expect. The two initial cases were brought by smaller firms, including two toy manufacturers, a New York wine importer, and a woman's apparel company. Back over.
So you got Kalshi saying there's a 40% chance that the Supreme Court is going to rule in favor of Trump's tariffs. Now, the nuance to this is that this will be decided in January. It's going to be heard today, but they're not going to make a decision for the next couple months. And if they were to go against Trump's tariffs, which I really don't think is going to happen, just given the makeup of the Supreme Court, the Trump administration has said they have 80 to 90% of their tariffs are going to be covered in like some backdoor loopholes for them to be able to navigate how they're going to be able to implement the tariffs. So even if they were to get a tariff ruling that was unfavorable to them, Trump would be upset, but he still thinks there's a way for them to implement the tariffs without going through the executive orders. Nonetheless, I do think it's going to be one thing that the markets are going to want some clarity on, because if the markets don't get clarity on that, they're going to be wondering, hey, wait a second, what's going on here? And like, when do we know if the deals that we made with these countries that are completely contingent on the tariffs, are those like going to stand up and be in place? So I don't think the market is priced in that volatility because it's not that big of a deal. And because I think the market, for the majority of the belief, is that like the Supreme Court's likely not going to overturn that. You have a decent number of conservative justices, so it's hard to imagine they would completely get rid of it. Also, you could argue legally the president does have the power to unilaterally act in this way. But the arguments are going to be starting today, and they're going to be listening to both sides and see what decision happens. Also, why are you guys saying I can't say breakfast correctly? Like, it's breakfast. How am I saying breakfast wrong? There's no freaking way I'm saying, but it's like 50 of you are like, you can't say breakfast. I know I don't eat breakfast, but there's no way I'm saying breakfast wrong. There's no freaking way. There is no freaking way. Like this, you said breakfast. There's no way I said breakfast, dude. I didn't say freaking breakfast. I did not say breakfast, dude. Someone share the clip if I said, I doubt I said breakfast. Someone said, will you say drinner? maybe I did say it too fast, but all right. So that's what you got right there in regards to Trump tariffs. What else do we have? A couple charts right here. Microsoft data center spending, capital expenditures hit nearly $35 billion in the first quarter, $23 billion with UK startup Neoscale, and then you had that $19 billion deal with Nebius, and then obviously the $10 billion deal with Iran. I still haven't gone through the Iran deal to fully understand the implications of it. Again, I don't know how well the unit economics of it work, but the stock market's obviously reacting in a positive way towards the Iran deal, and they're thinking that it's good. Iran got a ton of upgrades yesterday. Iran 69.50, they got upgrades all the way up to like 140. So markets are thinking that this is the start of a new deal. And look, even if this deal with Microsoft is not the best for their unit economics, if it signals that they are able to get more of these deals because they're only using like 12% of their capacity in the Texas center, then I mean, if they can get a couple more of these deals, they can probably quadruple their revenues, which probably would be accretive, even if like the profit from some of these deals is not the absolute best. But nonetheless, Iran right there, 69.60. That's up about 4.5% in the pre-markets as well. Yeah, AMD is down. Again, they had a good earnings. I don't think AMD necessarily deserves to be getting hit, but also AMD is up a lot from the lows in September. So I think it's okay that AMD is moving on as well. Grab got a bunch of price target as well. Evercore $8, Jefferies $6.80 to $7, Mizuho $6 to $7. You had Benchmark up to $6.60. Pretty much every firm that I saw last night raised their price target on Grab. Again, I brought more Grab yesterday. I really thought the earnings were strong, and one of the other reasons I thought was earnings was strong. Again, I'll do my video on it later, and I'll go deeper in depth on that on X, and I'll post that video. Is this chart right here? Grab had produced positive operating income for the first time in 3 years. This is why I gave the quarter an A-, because you're telling me a company that has not been able to produce operating income, a positive operating income for the past 3 years, does it for the first time. I can pretty much bet, I would bet a lot of money, and I'm quite literally betting a lot of money with the shares that I have, that it's not going to go back to being negative. Now they got to positive operating income. I really doubt they're going to want to go back to being negative. That's why this quarter was incredible to me. I mean, regardless of the stock price, the actual fundamentals of the business are becoming so much better, gaining the operating leverage, and then you're getting a discount on the price, even though the earnings were phenomenal. So if they continue being operating income positive for the first time in 3 years, and that is the trajectory for the rest of the company's history, that to me signals that this quarter was very strong. And I think it's only going to get stronger over time. But in the words of Tanner, it was mid. So it is what it is. AMD right there, down about 2.4%. S&P 500 at 675. BM&R, this one really got people annoyed yesterday. BM&R fell to $38. It was ugly out there for anyone who owns BM&R. You got people calling Tom Lee a scam and saying he's hiding, he's leaving the country, yada, yada. You got him, readjusting his McDonald's or his LinkedIn profile to say that he now works at McDonald's, which shout out to Tom Lee. He's taking it like a champ, and he's just laughing about it and making some jokes. Look, I do think people are being a bit too aggressive to Tom Lee, and look, it is what it is when you're a public figure and you make a bold prediction, or you champion a stock and the stock goes down. People are going to get annoyed at you, but calling him a scam is just, I don't know. I think people are really upset that they're losing money and they're trying to take it out on someone. And I just don't think that's the healthiest way to think of investing. I can understand people are mad and they're annoyed that their portfolio is down. That's fine. But to say someone who's correctly called the bull market for the past 3.5 years, when pretty much 99% of analysts were wrong about it, is a scam. I don't know. That's a little weird. So look, things will go up, things will go down. There was a blockchain address this morning that said Tom Lee bought 300 million of Ethereum over the past couple of days. Again, this is not confirmed, but based on the addresses they looked at, they're saying, hey, it looks like he bought almost 300 million worth of it. Now, they only have 350 million in cash. So if they used all their cash to buy Ethereum, I don't know if that ended up happening, but he did likely buy the dip over the past couple of days. And as Ethereum goes higher, those will be very accretive to these BM&R shares. This chart I thought was really interesting as well. This was posted by Ryan Dietrich. The AAII survey, bulls minus bears, is negative 11% in 2025. Only 3 other times has this ever been negative 10%, and they all happened in bear markets, 1990, 2008, and 2022. Incredibly, bears outnumber bulls by 11.1% based on this survey in 2008, the exact same level as 2025. We are in a bull market in 2025. But based on the AAI investor survey, which Tom Lee's talked about many times as one of the most important surveys to get a gauge on if people are bullish or bearish in the broader stock market, you have the same reading of bearishness as you had in 2008 when we had the Great Recession, which is kind of crazy, dude, because we're not in a recession unless, unemployment's at 4.3%, or the companies are putting up phenomenal earnings. So it's one of those things that I think really does speak to this most hated bull market ever, most hated V-shape, because if you are seeing bull market momentum with bear market attitudes, that just means there's a lot of room potentially for the stock market to go higher. And I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. And that's basically what Evercore ISI's Julian Emanuel says. So this is one of my favorites, and this is kind of his projections on how this bull market is turning out and what the long-term trend continues to be in place.
Going back to 2018, the second highest reading we got when we asked what's the next 10% in the S&P 500 was 69% set up. Last week it was 76%. And frankly, when you think about the setup and you think about last week, we got a lot of good earnings news. We got a lot of good geopolitical news, and the market just really sort of didn't go anywhere at the index level. And we've got a little bit of a information vacuum the next couple of weeks, and a government that's still shut down. So it's a near-term cautious setup in our view.
But longer term, you are bullish.
Absolutely, absolutely. As uncomfortable as owning stocks at this valuation has been, and frankly, we want to see it become uncomfortable once again. You look at the AI story, it continues to get better, and the earnings are just incredible.
So
what you're saying is basically disregard some sentiment and stay in for the long haul if you're that type of an investor. But to the extent that we just got done talking about market breadth, which is narrowed almost to a short little kind of triangle here, what does this mean? Is this part of your euphoria dynamic, or would you be concerned more broadly about market breadth? We all know there's a headline tomorrow, there's another one next week, and there's another one next week that's about retrofitting AI capacity and all these big boys that are already there. We know those headlines are coming. The rest of the market's not doing much.
Right. Well, so and if you look at this last couple of years of bull market, unlike the late 1990s, which we are all fond of comparing it to, you've had market breadth expand the entire time, whereas in the late 90s, it was declining for those last couple of years. And so to sort of lose that prop the last few weeks is certainly a worry. And to your point earlier, Tim, is nobody is positioned for a stronger dollar. And when that's the case, you tend to have other pain trades. Bitcoin is certainly likely to be one of those. And the entire recipe tends to be something that will likely spread the caution. Again, we're not going to have any more information until the last of the Mag 7 reports 2 weeks from now.
By the way, I don't.
So his kind of core argument right here is that earnings are strong. You are getting some dollar strength, which potentially is taking away some of the value from the other risk-on trades that are kind of a hedge against the dollar continuing to get stronger, like a Bitcoin. I mean, look at the dollar right here. We're above 100. Every time we've checked this for the past couple of months, it's been like 97, right? So we are not down 11% for the year as much anymore, which could be contributing to why we're seeing some risk-on volatility, especially in Bitcoin. That could also be one of the reasons why gold is back below 4,000. Gold is actually up about 0.74% of the day, 39.78, but still down below 4,000. In the midst of those macroeconomic concerns around kind of the short-term nature of the volatility with the dollar going up and other trades reacting as a result of the Dixie going higher, you have earnings growth. And until we get NVIDIA, we're not going to fully understand what the earnings picture looks like. But based on the earnings picture we've seen so far, it just seems like it's hard to fade this market. Evercore even said by 2026, we could be pushing well above 8,000 on the S&P 500, just based on the idea that these companies continue to execute, continue to perform, continue to buy back their stock, continue to overall lift the market as AI becomes the tailwind. And if that doesn't slow down, then it seems like we're going to continue to get a bit more momentum. You got a headline on D-Wave right here. Quantum, D-Wave, and BASF have completed a hybrid quantum application project that optimized manufacturing workflows, cutting production scheduling time from 10 hours to seconds. The quantum stocks did get hit yesterday. They recovered a little bit after hours. D-Wave right there is up about 3%. It was down about 10% yesterday. Mizuho actually came out with a $110 price target for D-Wave. It's quite incredible. So you got Mizuho saying, hey, we believe in the future of quantum, and they are making a bold bet on where they think D-Wave is going to go. Shutdown headlines. Democratic leaders write letter to Trump demanding a meeting. Schumer, Jeffries seek meeting to end government shutdown. Okay, maybe that means by the end of this week, we are going to get some level of progress on the shutdown. Trump right now just said, we have to get the government back open soon. It's affecting the stock market now, but the stock market as of Friday has hit many highs, and it will again. This is just the beginning, because when these plants are being built right now, they're starting to open up. We've never seen anything like this. There's a boom. Trump did signal in this breakfast with the Republican senators that he really wants to get the government open again. So, I mean, look, I hope it happens. Just for the TSA in general, I hope it happens, because you don't want a traveling season where air traffic control is not going well. There was a horrible crash yesterday in Kentucky. Now, this has not been fully attributed to the government shutdown and like air traffic control not being able to like do a good job. But as you can see right there, there was a UPS flight in Kentucky going for takeoff. And this might have, quite frankly, been a structural concern with the flight. I don't fully know if it's around air traffic control, but it was ugly, dude. It was really, really ugly. I think so far, 3 people injured, 11 people killed, 3 crew members were injured, and it was just bad. So all around, I mean, you are definitely seeing the need in general for the government to just be reopened, but this was Not a nice thing to see yesterday. Engine failure. Yeah, it was an engine failure thing. It was not ATC related. So it was not ATC related, but you got a lot of people thinking, okay, so that one wasn't because of ATC, but what if it was a commercial flight with 250 people going from New York to LA and something happened? I mean, it would be one of those things that would be very, very hard to navigate as a country if that happened, especially if it was rooted over politics as the main reason. And so we are now, by the way, we are now in the official largest shutdown. We are officially in the largest shutdown ever, 36 days. We have passed 2018. And so based on what a couple senators said yesterday and based on this letter from the Democrats today for Trump, I do think by the end of the week, there is a decent chance they at least have a bigger meeting because no one at this point wants to continue this going. But if they continue this going, then I guess we're going to see what happens. Tesla. So yesterday there was a big headline for some Tesla influencers to take off their shares from Schwab in case Schwab voted with or against the board for the compensation package. And Sawyer Merritt, Jason DeBolt, a lot of these big people in the Tesla community, they put their voices out there. They said, you guys, we are ready to take our shares off the platform. And then Schwab issues a statement on the Tesla proxy and says, we will be voting in favor with the board. This was pretty crazy. This was pretty crazy to see. So it was quite incredible to see retail investors come together. Even Vlad helped out. Vlad said, hey, we'll give anyone a match who wants to leave Schwab and bring their Tesla shares onto Robinhood. And he didn't really have to, do that because Schwab ended up capitulating. But the fact that he put some fuel on the fire and said, do we do a match for people that want to leave? I think Schwab immediately was like, yeah, there's no way. There's no freaking way we're going to let Robinhood take billions of dollars worth of Tesla off the platform. So it goes to show the power of retail. It goes to show how sophisticated retail can be. And, Tesla is a retail story since the beginning. Retail investors have understood the story way better than institutions. And so the fact that retail investors are sticking up for Elon because they want him to get paid for the monumental level of financial success that he is and shareholder value that he has provided to so many investors, it is really cool to see them come together and do this. So very, very dope to see this play out. And the shareholder meeting will be tomorrow. I'm not sure if I'll be live for it. I think based on the timing, I'll try to be live. And we will see if the XAI vote goes through and then ultimately Elon's compensation package goes through. And if it does, then there you go. You've got Elon potentially setting himself up to make $1 trillion working at Tesla, which is kind of crazy. But that is what we're going to see tomorrow as it comes through. All right, we got the market open in about 3 minutes. Robinhood does have earnings today. It's going to be a massive day for Hood. We already did our Hood preview on Monday and talked about it. I think Hood's going to crush, probably getting at $1.2 billion. I don't know what's going to happen to the stock. I think there's about an 8% move on the stock implied. I think the stock should go higher if they crush it. But then again, the stock is trading at all-time highs. It is the best performing stock in the S&P 500. So does it deserve to get a higher premium? That's going to be up to Robinhood today to really put up the results that are necessary to make this happen. So we're going to have to see, but it's going to be exciting to see their earnings. On top of that, you have Duolingo, you have AppLovin, you have ARM, you have Fortinet, Elf, Joby, EOSE. I know a lot of people like that energy name. Snapchat, DoorDash, Lyft, FICO, Dutch Bros, HubSpot, IONQ, Qualcomm. I mean, you've got a lot of companies, lots and lots and lots of companies that are reporting today. So we're going to be covering Robinhood, but we'll be looking at all those companies as well after the bell. And we're going to see if we can continue getting a lot of this bull market momentum spreading through the smaller companies. Because if it can continue, then, I think there is a real argument for S&P 7,000 as we get towards the end of the year. Apparently, if you crush their earnings, the stock goes down. Yeah, it usually, if the stock's up a lot, that's the thing for a lot of these names, whether it's AMD or NVIDIA, a lot of these stocks have just gone up a lot. And so as a result, even if they crush earnings, you might not get that stock price move, even if they do deserve it. But as someone who holds the company, and I know a lot of people just own the stock because they believe in the long-term trajectory of the company, you want to see the company do well. And that's the most important thing, regardless of just the stock price itself. All right, here we go. We got 20 seconds. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is Wednesday, November 5th. We are a couple days into November. Last night in the overnight markets was pretty bloody. We've recovered a decent amount of that, especially in crypto. And so now we're going to see if the market can continue some of this momentum to the upside. Thank you, everybody, for being here Wednesday, November 5th. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. The Googs opens up at 278. That's up 0.5% on the day. There you go on the Googs, 278.98. Palantir goes down. Again, Palantir was at 181 yesterday. Palantir right here at 189.19. So you got Palantir opening red, but it is up from where it was last night. S&P 500 goes red, 675. AMD down 2%. SoFi, 29.59. That's up. Grab right there up 0.5%. That's at 582. Google 278. Robinhood at 1.7%. Robinhood got to 130 last night. So again, last night was a bit aggressive for a lot of these names, but that one recovering, trying to get back up to 140. Amazon goes red, even after that OpenAI partnership that they had a couple days ago. Meta, 628. They're taking Meta below the 650s, and it's kind of staying there. So 628 on Meta. Salesforce right there, 258. PayPal, that's up just a little bit. Elf is down 2%. Apple's down 0.5%. SMCI down 4%, but it is recovering from the lows of where it was. That was at 41. Now it's at 45, even though it's below that 49 level that it was at yesterday. Ethereum, 3,300. That should be keeping Bitmine above 42 or above 40-ish, 40.97, making a run to that 41.50 level. Bitcoin right here, 102.6. AppLovin's down 1.6%. Circle is up 1.18. Lemonade, they had a massive earnings. They are up 13%. 13% move on Lemonade, getting a big move right there. Unity is up 18. It was up 18. Now it's up 11, losing 7%. So Unity up 11, Lemonade up 14, Enphase up 1.6, Microsoft down 0.5%, Palo Alto's flat, and MicroStrategy's up 1.2. ASTS losing 70. This one got to 102 a couple weeks ago, up from 36. So definitely had a bit of a move. It looks like it's obviously consolidating right here below that 75 level. ASTS right there, 69.76. HIMS right there, up 4.4%. Uber's down 0.5%. Roblox down a little bit. The Q's down 0.14. And then CrowdStrike is down as well, even after the announcement with CoreWeave today. Zeta, 13% on Zeta. There you go. Zeta at 19. Now, Zeta was at 19 a couple months ago, or a couple weeks ago, so it's kind of getting back to where it was. This one's been kind of stuck between that $17 and $19 range. It broke out to 21 about, 6 weeks ago, early September. But now this one is kind of chilling in that range, but a 13% move from 16. I mean, they crushed earnings, so they definitely deserve a move, and you're seeing that right here. NVIDIA goes red. There was a headline this morning from China that said that Chinese state governments are forcing Chinese companies to use Chinese chips. They kind of don't have a choice because we're not selling them any chips, but the Chinese government is kind of making it a bigger priority to make sure the Huaweis, the Tencents, the Babas of the world, the JDs continue to use state manufactured chips, which obviously is not good for NVIDIA and AMD, but if we weren't giving them our chips anyway, then I don't know if it's going to have that much of an impact in terms of the perception of the stock. Google right there, 278, and then SoFi, 29.32. You got a lot of names going red. Palantir down 2.5%, so that one getting hit. NVIDIA goes red. S&P is red. Reddit's up just a little bit. Google just went red. Grab just went red. Meta, not red, but you do have a red candle. Tempest, they had a great earnings yesterday. They were up 10%. Tempest is now down 6%. Arista and A-Lab absolutely crushed it in the networking space. Arista down 5%. A-Lab is up 1%, so not really getting a massive move on either of those, but they are red. And then Microsoft right there at 512. Yeah, you're seeing pretty much everything go red. I think this is, I think the next 2 weeks are going to be a little bit more choppy consolidation. We're waiting for NVIDIA earnings. Like, there's not really a catalyst over the next couple of weeks outside of the government reopening, which, okay, when that happens, sure, that'll be bullish, but like that'll be priced in relatively soon. There's no massive earnings outside of NVIDIA in a couple of weeks. Every really important earnings has already happened. The elections are over. Democrats clean sweep across the country last night. Mamdani is now the mayor of New York, so that volatility of not knowing who's going to win, that's done. And so I guess over the next 2 weeks, what's the big thing? Fed rate cut meeting's not till December. I guess we'll get some more labor market data when the government reopens, but you might have these stocks just kind of go sideways to get some of their momentum baked in. Lemonade right there, 19%. All right, Lemonade's really making a move right here. Lemonade's really making a move. AMD was yesterday. We had AMD yesterday. Again, they beat on the top and the bottom. but their stock is flat right here. Lemonade, $70. Lemonade did hit 70 at one point this year, right? No, first. Okay, so that's cool. This is not all-time highs because it got, 2021, it got to like 200. But this is 52-week highs for Lemonade at 70. Palantir getting dumped. 184. 184 on Palantir. Okay, so that one's getting hit. Look, again, I thought the earnings were exceptional. I think all of us know the earnings were exceptional. Steve was talking about it last night. I mean, Steve was talking about the S curve for Palantir hasn't even happened yet. And it's kind of crazy to think that. But then again, they only have 911 customers. Like, you can imagine that the S curve has many, many years of runway left to really take place. But there's a lot of growth baked into the stock. Like, at the end of the day, that's just something no one can deny. And so you might see a rebound on Palantir. You also might see some people take profits. But you got Palantir right here at around 185 as we get into earnings, or as we get into the end of November. Novo, they had a big headline with Lilly yesterday about Medicare and Ozempic, and Medicare covering Ozempic. Eli Lilly's up 1.6, Novo's down. So you got one going up, one going down. Monroe shares up 12% after Carl Icahn reports a stake in the company. Oh, we do have 13Fs that are starting to come out. I think in about a week or a week and a half, we're going to have a lot more 13Fs to see. Monroe is up 12%. I don't know what this company is. $515 million company, engages in the operation of chain stores that provide automotive undercover repair and tire services. Carl Icahn taking a 12% stake in a company that does auto servicing. Does anyone know this name? Monroe? Stock year to date was down 30%. Well, Carl Icahn is an activist investor, so I guess you're getting some activism potentially out of him on this name. But there you go. That's what you got on Monroe. Rivian did have earnings as well. They are still not profitable. Stock is up 7%, which is nice. They did have gross profitability, if not GAAP profitability. And they did say the tariffs are not going to affect their plans for the R2 production starting next year. So things seem to be on track for the overall production of vehicles, even if they are still not profitable. By the way, Amazon sold all of their IONQ and AMD. They filed their 13F yesterday. They do not own AMD or IONQ anymore. So they took profits there. And you're going to see a lot more 13Fs that come out. We obviously already had Michael Burry, but over the next week and a half, we should start to see a lot more from more of these asset managers that are out there. Rivian right there, 1342. CoreWeave up a little bit. Rocket Lab, 56. Rocket Lab is down. Kathy did not sell out of Palantir. She has been selling Palantir. It's still like a top 10 position in the ETF, but she has been selling. I think in the past couple months, she sold at least like 400,000 or 500,000 shares. So she's definitely trimmed the position, but it is still top 10 in the portfolio for her. CleanSpark, is that green? CleanSpark getting a little bit of green, down from 21. That was at 21 a couple of days ago. Are you excited for Hood? Yeah, I am excited for Hood. It's just, again, I do think that the stock might have the earnings baked into them. And so I know it's still below all-time highs, which is good. You know, Palantir was making all-time highs going into earnings. Hood is still below it, which is like a way better setup. But at the end of the day, you know, Hood's up a lot this year. So we're going to have to see what Vlad and the team can do. I do think the prediction markets are going to be the big tailwind this quarter, and you know, the ability for them to kind of hedge back against some of the crypto volatility that might not have been as strong for the business. The street wants 1.2 billion. They're going to have to beat 1.2. That would be 89% year-over-year growth. And I don't know if they can beat 1.2. I think that's a tall order, but if they can really beat 1.2, that's when I think the street's like, all right, we got to give it a little bit more premium if they're going to beat by that wide of a margin. But I'll be live at 3:30 with Tanner and Roy, and we'll discuss that. Circle right there, 1.32%. That's up a little bit. Kratos also had a good earnings. They beat on the top of the bottom. Kratos right there is down 12%. Again, Kratos was a stock that was up a lot this year. Another case of a name. I mean, if you just look at the chart right there, great earnings, but maybe a lot was priced in, and that's why that stock is down. How about Nebius? Are we still green? Nebius 112.54, up from 109. Not horrible. Nebius, when does Nebius have earnings today? Or do they have earnings today? I think they do, right? Or is it next week? No, it's tomorrow. I'm pretty sure Nebius is tomorrow, right? I believe it's tomorrow. I mean, if it, yeah, we'll stream it if it's tomorrow. I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow. Next week. Okay. All right. We'll stream it. I think you guys will kill me if I don't stream it. The Nebius bulls are like the AMD bulls, bro. And then if I don't stream the Iran earnings, then it's like, because the worst thing is it's like the lack of picking or choosing to stream means like I'm picking a side on the stock. It's like, oh, you stream Nebius, but not Iran. I see how it is a bit. I see how it is. It's like, no, like I had a conflict. Like I had to go to my dentist. Like, no, I don't want to hear about your dentist. I want to hear about your stupid dentist. Okay. You chose not to stream my stock, which means you're a bear. Okay. That's what's happening. Iran is tomorrow. Okay. We'll be listening to Iran tomorrow then. We'll be listening to Iran tomorrow. BMNR, are we at 41? We are at 41.10, 4%. That's getting a little recovery. Coinbase 2.6. CoreWeave 116. Dude, I actually do have to go to the dentist because I canceled it last week for GTC and I haven't rescheduled. So like I legit actually have to call them today and reschedule. Iran option flow 617,000 is going into calls at 71 strike for 1114. So that's next week, 1114, 71 strike. Iran back up to 70. There you go, 5.72%. And this one goes green. Is Pinterest a buy? Dude, does anyone use Pinterest? Be honest in the chat. When's the last time you used Pinterest? This thing is down 20%. Pinterest missed on EPS by 20%. I mean, they can't miss by 20% on EPS, but they missed pretty bad. Monthly active users are up, but not up as much as they should be up. From my understanding, middle-aged women use this product a lot. Not teenagers, not men. It's basically 40-year-old women that are like, or 50-year-old women like my mom, that's like trying to plan out their vision board, and they end up going to Pinterest and like engaging with it. But I don't know if it's exciting enough for the street. Google was supposed to buy these guys out, by the way, by in freaking 2021. There was a lot of conversation that Google was going to buy them and just use them as their like visual search engine. I think Google did a pretty good job not doing this acquisition because, like, really, what are you getting buying Pinterest? You're getting $1 billion in revenue every quarter. It's like, is that really even accretive to Google? So, yeah, I know. I don't think this is a buy the dip. This is like Snapchat. Like, it's a way better business than Snapchat. Don't get me wrong, but it's like the risk you're taking for an advertising play. I'd rather buy if you're buying Pinterest for ads. I'd rather buy Meta hand over fist. I mean, any day of the week, I would buy Meta over Pinterest or Snapchat. So if you're looking for an advertising play, the best advertising company in the world is down almost 20%. And I would buy them. Any friend who is creative in a job ends up using Pinterest right now. I think they're all out of jobs. So it goes, yeah, that's a good point. Like the freelance economy might be struggling due to AI, which means a lot of those people that use Pinterest for whatever work reasons they used it for, might not be having that same type of demand. Fubo's up 7%. The ADP payroll data already came out. It was 49,000 versus 22,000 expected. So we added about 20,000 more jobs than the street expected on private payrolls, which is good. It still means that, we likely will get a rate cut, but it also proves the labor market is not as horribly weak as some were thinking. But that data came out earlier in the morning. Fiverr, that stock is up 2%. Upwork, another one of these freelance companies, that stock is down about 2.3. Those stocks have not really done the best over the past couple of years. S&P 500 goes red. And NVIDIA trying to go back to green, very close to break even, but still red on the day. Cypher is making a move. Wow, Cypher, 7% day. Okay, so I guess the Bitcoin miners go green today, except Riot and Galaxy, which Galaxy had a great earnings. I don't know why that stock is down over the past 2 weeks. Nebius green, Applied Digital green, CoreWeave green, Iran and Cypher green. Iran and Cypher green. Do we like Upstart? Upstart had a okay earnings from my understanding, and from based on what Tanner said yesterday. SoFi originated more loans for other institutions than Upstart. It took 5 quarters to beat Upstart at their own game when it comes to underwriting for originations on loans. So I don't understand Upstart's business entirely at its core. I know it's like AI underwriting for loans, But if I had to pick between one of the two, it would be SoFi. I think you're just getting so much more with SoFi. And if they're already originating more loans than the company whose entire brand is like, we are the best at originating loans using artificial intelligence, yada, yada, I feel like you'd rather go with SoFi. But it wasn't a horrible earnings. Upstart right there. Market doesn't like it, down 10%. They had a beat on the top line, but market taking them down 10%. I ran up 6% right here. Right now, VIX, are we getting up a little bit on the VIX? VIX is up a little bit. Dude, the VIX was up like 10% yesterday. So here's the thing about yesterday's reaction. It wasn't a panic VIX spike, which is why I don't think you had as quick of a V-shaped recovery, because it wasn't like, oh, everyone's freaking out and then everyone's not freaking out. It was a little bit more of the VIX slowly going up. And when that happens, you have a little bit more of a prolonged downturn. And, we're going to see if that prolonging of the VIX creeping up continues, but it wasn't as aggressive as a spike. And the fact that the VIX is holding the levels that it was at yesterday and you're not seeing it immediately come back down is why you're not seeing like Nvidia immediately go back to 205. So it's one thing we have to watch out for as we kind of analyze market dynamics. S&P 500, 674, 97 on the day. Do we have any PMI data? Let me see. Do we have PMI? Again, we added 42,000 jobs in the private sector. We did get global composite PMI. Did we get it? No, but we got mortgage applications. Okay, so mortgage applications came in at 6.31%. That's a little bit higher than expected for the mortgage rates. Applications were negative 1.9% versus 7% last month. And the mortgage index was 332 versus 338. So we had a miss across mortgages, even as rates are coming down. That 10-year is not coming down fast enough either, which is why rates are still not fully coming down. We have U.S. services PMI. Do we have services PMI? Oh, yeah, we do. 54.8 versus 55.2. 54.8 versus 55.2. All right, so we got some PMI. S&P is actually going green on that, which is nice to see. That's not a crazy stat that the market cares too much about, but given we barely have any data, having anything is better than not. So services PMI 54.8, forecast was 55.2. That is a miss. It's not a horrible miss, and that's why I think you're seeing the market get that bid right there. It's a pretty aggressive green candle, dude. Look at that. Goes from straight red to green. It continues to, I don't know if there's a Trump tweet either that's helping that, but it might just be PMI that's taking that one higher. Yeah, it looks like that's PMI. Wow, dude, it's like 674. Oh, that dude is 674 to 676. I feel like it's got to be more than PMI. We're just seeing it go higher and higher. I feel like there's got to be something else here. Nvidia just went green. Tesla just went green. Robinhood just went green. SoFi just went green. Google just went green. Reddit just went green. Amazon's about to break green. AMD still down 1.7, but not down as much as it was before. There's no tweet. There's no Trump tweet. I guess that was PMI. I mean, that's the best reason that we're looking at here. Okay, so that's what we have right there. 676 now on the S&P going up. When will the Supreme Court comment on Trump's tariffs? Likely not until January. They're going to be listening to arguments for the next couple of months, and then by January, we're going to get some more momentum. Dude, look at that move, 676.20. That's not on PMI, bro. PMI is never that serious. PMI is never that important. And we missed. we didn't even beat on PMI. So it's like, that's kind of weird. Either that's algos or that's someone knowing something, preparing for. Is that Barron Trump loading up on calls before Trump says something? I don't know, but it seems like there's something going on. Let's get a little bit coverage on that PMI as well.
Expectations and less than the mid-month read. 54.8 replaces 55.2, and if you look at the composite, 54.6 replaces 54.8. But here's the rub. Even though they're less than expected and less than the mid-month read, they're still sequentially higher than last month, which is the comp. So on the services side, it's the weakest since last month when it was 54.2, and on the services side, 53.9 in SEP. The reason the market yields are going up, you see 4.12 and a 10-year, is because we're now taking out yesterday's 4.11 high yield. And should we close at 4.11 plus or higher, it would be a fresh 1-month high yield close in 10-year. We still have ISM service,
which I guess is helping the markets as people are selling bonds and potentially buying stocks, which are also causing those yields to go higher. Someone's saying it signals that we're definitely getting a cut. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like the PMI data missing, even though it's higher than last month, could signal that we're getting a cut. But it was such a small miss by like 0.02 that I don't know if it would change the expectations for a cut as dramatically. But I guess the market likes it. Chad said he should be saying basis points like you. Every time you say basis points, you sound smarter. You don't have to say it's down by this. You say, no, it's down by 50 basis points. It's not 0.5%. It's 50 basis points. That is how you intellectualize the conversation around the stock market. Look at the S&P, dude. 676.40. 676.40. NVIDIA right there, almost 200. Palantir still down 3%, but recovering from where it was before. And then SoFi up 1.3. Cypher is making a big move right here. I have not looked into the details of their AWS deal for 15 years, but I would imagine the street likes it. Cypher right there, 25.15. AMD as well, going green. AMD back to 250 after those earnings. Bitcoin back to 103. All right. Someone either knows something or the market is either moving on. I don't want to say we've bottomed or anything like that, but this is a pretty nice move across the board, and maybe it's gone in a couple minutes, but it is nice to see everything participate. Look at the heat map right here. Let me see if I can pull this up. When you're seeing the black, that's basically negative, but like negative by less than 1%. So you're seeing a lot more black and gray on the screen, and that means they're red, but they're not like really red. You got to be above 1% to go red. So either everything's recovering or it's starting to get a lot more flattish versus red. The big red you had was NVIDIA, Microsoft, and Apple, but those are also recovering as well. Maybe it's the government reopening rumors that are going on. There's a lot of rumors going back and forth, especially with these letters that are being sent to Trump from the Democrats and Democratic leadership. Look at the S&P, almost at 677. Maybe it's just that's carrying the market higher. NVIDIA just went green. NASDAQ as well, up 0.35%. Let's take a look at the stock draft. Am I in first place? I'm in first place again. Matt's at 36. I'm at 39. Steve's at 6. Tanner's at 22. Chris is at 8. We are back in first place, baby. And we're still down 44% on Duolingo, dude. We're holding first place even with this green owl wrecking us. Duolingo's earnings is going to be so important because if they can just even like go up by 10, 15%, I'm going to start to really solidify a lead in first place. But if they stay flat, then it's going to be the overhang on my ETF. 676 though on the S&P. Micron as well going green. Wow, 7% on Micron, dude. Goodness gracious. NVIDIA back to 200. Nah, I think something's going on. I think this is not from PMI, bro. There's something else. Maybe it's just the algos, but I feel like there's something else. Feels like risk on, right? Yeah. Feels completely like risk on. Heat map going pretty much green. There's more deals coming for Cypher and Iran. Maybe the market's pricing that in as well. SMR is up 9%. Yeah, the nuclear stocks are running. Oklo is up 6%. Quantum is D-Wave's up 1. Rigetti is up 2. IONQ is up 1. AMD's up almost half. S&P just took out 677. I mean, I guess there's something. There's something the market's liking. 677 right here on the S&P as well. Wow. Yeah, dude, pretty much everything. Everything. Trump didn't say anything. I don't see that he said anything. But you're seeing a lot of action just completely flip. Completely flip to the upside right here. 676 on the S&P. Risk on essentially means people are willing to be more risky and obviously bet a bit more aggressive with their capital. And you're seeing some of that right here. Trump was live. Yes, he was talking about the shutdown and stuff. He didn't say anything too crazy that I think would get the market to be super excited. It might just be seeing a rebound as well from a lot of oversold action and activity that we saw yesterday. Folks, let's bring someone onto the show who called in today for this Wednesday morning. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Ahmed. How are you?
I am doing very well. How is your morning going?
I'm glad that you're doing well. You're a good role model.
You know, the S&P is up right now.
I called in on my way into the office because I just wanted to let everybody know. So they just need to take a step back, take a deep breath, drink a nice cold glass of milk, and just relax. Everything's going to be all right.
Have you been shook at all this week from the volatility?
No.
And why is that?
Because this is not a short-term game. This is called investing.
You were supposed to say, because I don't care. I was setting you up, bro. I gave you the hat.
Yeah, but you know what? I say it all the time. I was going to lead it. I was going to lead into it. But look, the reality is, if you have an investment thesis and something doesn't change in the investment thesis, and you have a 3 to 5 year outlook, a couple of days of strong volatility is not going to matter. And especially with the MNR, I went over it last night. If you look at a 5-year chart, there are significant drawdowns on Ethereum that are very similar to what we experienced over the past couple of days.
Yeah.
And this is part of the game. This is part of investing. And everybody knows what they sign up for when they allocate capital. And when it comes to Palantir, many people have a lot of gains on it. And seeing a 10 or 15% dump isn't the worst thing in the world. It's actually healthy. And this quarter signaled that they are one of the most incredible companies I have ever seen.
I just want to get your quick thoughts on it. I mean, what was your raw takeaway from the quarter?
I don't know another company that is able to do what they're able to do other than NVIDIA. It's very similar to what NVIDIA put up in 2024. And I got to say, I don't think people understand the S-curve that is going to come over the next 2 to 3 years. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I believe that they added roughly 290 customers over the past year. And the amount of $1 million contracts in the past 2 quarters that they've signed is about 350 contracts. Now, net dollar retention at 134% does not include any deals that they've signed within a 12-month period.
Right.
So when they start generating revenue from those contracts, we're going to see a huge S-curve because they're actually accelerating the rate of deals that get done. And they have such strong margins. I do believe, and I think you and I have a little bit of a different opinion on this part, but I'll say it anyway. I do believe that the fact that Palantir couldn't make it to 225 or 230 after an absolute crushing quarter, that they threw the kitchen sink and everything at it, nobody really thought that they were going to get above 60%. And they got 63% year-over-year growth. I think we've hit a short-term top. I think it's going to retrace a little bit, and I think it's going to go sideways. Do I think that these analyst expectations or bearish analyst price targets of $60 is reasonable? No, I don't.
Well, you know, our boy Rishi upgraded us from 45 to 50 yesterday.
Oh, look at that, 45 to 50. I think that's not really realistic. But look, if it goes down to 150 and trades sideways for a little bit and then starts to appreciate again as it grows into the valuation, I think that's entirely possible. Now, before, if you talked to me last year about it, I thought that the metrics were really crazy. This year, I don't think they're really crazy anymore on a forward basis, only because I think the rate of revenue growth on a dollar amount is going to increase so much at their margins. I think they could be at 10 billion revenue in 2027 at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe 2028, 2027, 2028. I think there'll be a $10 billion revenue company generating 4 to 5 billion in free cash flow. And that puts them in a very similar realm to other companies. And if they can get to 15 or 20 billion revenue by, 2031 or so, it's a company that can do $10 billion of free cash flow. So I think that if I had to put money on it, I think 150 to 200 range is where it's going to go sideways for a while. And then we'll see. I think right now it's more important about the revenue number that they're going to project for 2026. I think that's the big important thing that people are waiting for now.
Yeah, and again, look, I don't think it easily goes down to 150 just because I think that's a really aggressive drawdown. I think you're going to have a lot of dip buyers. But I do agree with you. If the margins continue to inflect as they keep up the revenue growth, and if they can keep up 30% over the next 10 years, I mean, this really is just getting started. This is going to be a $1 trillion company. So it is unilateral. The only concern I've heard analysts talk about is valuation, which is fine. But every single analyst, bearish or bullish, has had to admit this was the most exceptional quarter they've seen in the history of the stock market. Like NVIDIA rivals it back in 23, which is why it's really exciting to be on the journey right now for Palantir.
There's only two companies, NVIDIA and Palantir, that have been able to do this. Maybe Microsoft, before I was following it, had a quarter like this, but this is exceptional. Next quarter is going to be exceptional. And we know that they're guiding for around 60% growth in Q4 year over year.
Yeah.
And I put together a bunch of charts I showed off last night. This is so strong for the fundamentals. And so, look, valuation and if a business is thriving are two different things. Nobody can sit there and say that this business isn't thriving. Nobody can sit there and say that they're not executing. Nobody can sit there and say that they're not doing what they need to do. This is one of the most exceptional companies we've ever seen. Now, can a valuation get disconnected from reality? Sure, it happens with a bunch of stocks. But this isn't something that I think is going to crash and burn by any means. I think it's going to find a floor. I think it'll go sideways for a while. And I think it's going to need a little bit of time to grow into it. But once again, it's a long-term investing game. So unless you're short money or unless you're a day trader, a little bit of a downturn, 15 or 20%, shouldn't matter for anybody, because we don't, as long-term investors, we don't make decisions on what's going to happen tomorrow, next week, or next month. So in 3 to 5 years, is it going to be a bigger company than it is today? I think so.
Agreed. All right, Steve. Thank you. Appreciate you calling in. And we will talk to you soon. Putting Steve's Twitter right there in the chat. Everyone can follow him there.
All right. Stay out of trouble, man.
All right. Later.
Later.
We got ISM, folks. Let's bring that in for services.
Back to Rick Santelli. Hi again, Rick.
Hi, Carl. Well, this is a different story. You see yield zooming. That's because of the following data points. October read on ISM services are strong. 52.4 is the headline, well above expectations, 2.5 points above our last look, sequentially strong, best since Feb of this year when it came in at a strong 53.5. Prices paid, moving the wrong way. Another reason yields are going up. 70.0, we're expecting 68, 69.4 in the rearview mirror. Highest prices paid since October of 22, 3 years. If we look at the new orders, also well above expectations, a wild 56.2. That would be the best going all the way back to October of last year, 1 year high there. And on the employment front, we saw ADP better than expected, nothing terrific. This is pretty solid, 48.2, still in contraction territory, but better than expected, better than the 47.2 in the rearview mirror, and 48.2 would be the best since May when it was in expansion territory the last time at 50.7. So these are solid numbers. We're trading 414 now. That's up a handful of basis points as we're hovering with some of the highest closes since early October. David Faber, back to you.
Okay, so market's trying to grapple with some of this ISM stuff. And as you can see right here, 10 years are creeping much higher, 4.1, which I don't think is necessarily good, but it's also not horrible. The rate cut trajectory is even better than expected. I mean, it was 69% in the morning, now it's 70.1%. So you have more people still believing that we're going to get a cut. So it's not like this is pushing the probabilities of a cut down. And then the Dixie still at 100. And then I guess the market's up because look at that, S&P high of day. I guess the market's up because people are selling bonds and buying stocks. I mean, you would think this is counterintuitive for the ability to get a rate cut coupled with the labor market news today, but I don't think it's enough quote unquote good news that is actually bad news to say that the economy is so strong that we don't need to cut. Like, I don't think we're there yet, and the probabilities are not showing that, or else we would see, below 60, at least, around 65, 67%, which would be lower than the 2-week moving average on the probabilities for the Fed futures. But S&P's moving higher, even with the 10-year moving higher. Where is gold? Gold is kind of flat. All right, so I guess ISM is leading to the market selling off their bonds because they think there's going to be a little bit more inflation. If we get a rate cut, that's probably only going to force the expectations of a rate of inflation to go higher, which would lead to a further selling off of bonds, which means, ironically, people need to hedge against the rate of inflation, and the way they do that is the stock market. S&P 678, new high of day. Potentially also crypto. Is Bitcoin getting any love right here? Bitcoin is at, Bitcoin's flattish. Bitcoin's actually red. Ethereum as well. Or the S&P is going up and the market's going up for a different reason, and not just ISM and the correlation with bond yields, but you do have a bit of a move right there. That's interesting. There's a lot of moving parts to this data coming into it. And again, there's not a real accurate picture because we're missing so much data. AMD right there trying to crush 252. And as a result of not having all that data, maybe the market's just trying to put together the pieces to a puzzle, even if they don't have all the pieces. Yes, take two is tomorrow. We'll cover that tomorrow, and we'll see what we get. Let's get a little bit more coverage on this tariff stuff as the Supreme Court is beginning to hear some of these challenges now.
There's two cases here, so you're going to have a little bit more in terms of the back and forth, and everyone's going to be looking at which justices ask which questions here today to get a sense of which way they're leaning. That can be a tricky game, though, because a lot of times you'll see Supreme Court justices sort of do the devil's advocate thing and ask the toughest question that is the toughest on where you presume their own side is in terms of where they're coming from politically or intellectually. So it can be a bit of a fool's errand to try to guess where they're going to come down based on the questions, but they'll take that all under consideration, and we do expect this is under a bit of an expedited procedure here, so the guessing game is that by the end of the year we might have a decision, but they can make that decision at any time, baby.
But Eamon, isn't the upshot that even if the Supreme Court does strike down the legality of the tariffs and make that revenue come back, there's still tools. There's Section 301, which, that's when the administration does an investigation into tariffs in certain industries. There's the Section 232. They've used these provisions pretty effectively as well.
Yeah, there are other options, and you heard Treasury Secretary Bessent say on CNBC yesterday that they've got contingency plans. There are other things that they can do, but those things are more cumbersome. The reason the administration likes the IEPA procedure that it's been using is because it's pretty much direct presidential authority. He doesn't have to go through a long investigation process. He doesn't have to notify Congress and do all these other procedural things that he would have to do under some of these alternatives. So what the president likes is that immediate and direct ability to tariff with no caps on how high he can go in the tariffs and no timeline for when he can put those into place. If that's struck down, that really limits his maneuvering room on tariffs going forward. But you're right, they would try to reimpose these tariffs effectively at the same levels with these other procedures. It might be cumbersome, but they could probably do it.
Which also means, again, no matter how the Supreme Court rules, you might not have that much of an impact on the tariffs. S&P 500 right there, 677.59. Everything else relatively green. Google right there, 284.71 on the day. Triple V, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it, Triple V. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the super chat. I might be getting dinner with Triple V soon. He might be coming into town. So Steve might actually join us as well. So it'll be fun. Hopefully late November, he'll be in the Big Apple. And Steve and I will be able to get dinner with Mr. Triple V. So thank you for the super chat, sir. Thank you for being here. Robinhood, he has a massive position, almost 4.5 million shares. So today's going to be a big day for him as well, as Robinhood has earnings. And that's going to be a fun one. Davin, thank you for the super chat. Buying more hood into earnings, not encouraging it, but we're going to see some killer fundamentals, especially with the amount of chatter around prediction markets. Yeah, look, I think so as well. It's just same thing with Palantir. I mean, a lot of people that bought calls or bought shares going into earnings, it's like, you got to remember you're buying at basically all-time highs. And although the quarter might be exceptional, if it's not, whatever is beyond exceptional, and even if it is, the stock might not move higher. So I don't know. I think if you're degenning into hood or any stock at all-time highs going into earnings, you got to be ready to DCA. I am not doing that just because they're up a lot, dude. I mean, like, realistically, for this to get to 150, they've got to absolutely crush it, which I think they will. But then even then, my risk to reward is not the best. Now, is there a world where they go to like 160 or some massive move? Yeah, but I don't know what the hell Robin is going to say to be able to get that type of a move. And if they do, I wouldn't be complaining, but it's just a lot of risk going into it. So I do think if you're ready to hold it long-term, then it's not too bad. DCA means dollar cost average. So if you buy it at 137 and then Robinhood tanks to 130, you got to be okay with buying it at a lower price than the entry prices that will reduce your average. But Robinhood right there, 137.94, S&P 500. That's a 0.31% on the day as well, 677.32. Prediction markets on track to be $1 billion business by 20-something would do it. Yeah, I just don't know if they can give that guidance either. Robinhood usually doesn't give guidance. If they do say by like 2029, prediction markets is going to be $1 billion business, that would be incredible. It's not like them to give guidance on these types of things because there's so many regulatory things they have to worry about, along with the fact that they don't know, right? They don't know if prediction markets actually are going to continue to stay in the same form that they are. But if they can kind of signal that it's, turning into their next 9-figure line of business, which would mean they have 10 9-figure lines of businesses, which is $100 million or more, that would be exciting to see. Rivian is up nice today. Yes, Rivian is up nice. Decent earnings for Rivian. Wow, 12%, 14. Okay, there you go. It was at 12:30 yesterday. So Rivian getting a move right there. Quantum, are we still hurting on Quantum? D-Wave goes red. All right, so the Quantum name's still getting a little hit. Rigetti as well going red. Bitcoin trying to hold green. It's got $1,000 before Bitcoin goes red, but at least it's holding above 103. And then AMD at 252. Is there a prediction if they will give guidance on their prediction markets? That's a good question. That is a good question. SLDP is up 40%. Solid Power. This has got to be a small cap. 1.5 billion, engages in the manufacture and supply of power batteries. The firm develops all solid-state battery cell technologies that replace the liquid or gel used in conventional lithium-ion batteries. Okay, more of these battery plays. I guess they had earnings today. 40% move right here. Partnership with BMW. They have $279 million in cash. And you're seeing battery names in general get some momentum. Yeah, on their earnings today, they announced a new Samsung partnership. That'll do it. There you go. SLDP, solid power, up 50% now on the day as that continues to go green. Fubo, how about that one? Fubo right here, up 9%. All right, so you have a variety of, I'm just trying to make sense of kind of what we're seeing right here. S&P goes green. It's losing its high of day, but it was green. ISM services and PMI both missed, but they were better than expected. ADP payrolls were higher. Bitcoin and Ethereum at least holding on, if not trying to recover. Amazon's red, Meta's up. And then Palantir, that seems more Palantir specific because of earnings. People selling that off at 184, and NVIDIA trying to hold 200. And then you had Lemonade and Unity that crushed it. Lemonade right there. Wow, 23% on Lemonade. My goodness, what a quarter for them. Massive for Lemonade. Shout out to Bergman, Adam Bergman, friend of the channel. He has been in Lemonade for a while as well. Unity right there, up 7% as well. Okay, so I guess those are the moving parts of this market. I mean, the government reopening might be your catalyst as well. The Supreme Court tariff thing, markets are starting to price in. And overall, decent earnings. Let's get a little bit more coverage on some of the payroll stuff, and then we'll keep going from there.
To read. So ADP is important, and there's a little bit of a sigh of relief, I would say, in terms of job creation. So this is private sector job creation, and you can see the number 42,000. That was better than economists were expecting, around 30,000. And also it reverses the negative number that we saw in September, which was also revised a little bit better. I think it's a sigh of relief because it doesn't signal that job market is taking another leg down in October, which was a worry. You know, we didn't get the September official jobs report, the October, official jobs report. So we're reading into this, even though it doesn't have the best correlation with the government numbers. One other interesting fact here about where the jobs are being created, and it really jives with what Rick just reported, how the services sector is doing well. Services economy is producing jobs. Larger companies are producing jobs. Look, small and medium-sized businesses are hurting. And that's where you're seeing the job decline. So, I'm not sure that that's AI related. When we worry about, is the job momentum stalling because of AI? I mean, there's lots of other potential reasons. Uncertainty around the economy, a slowdown in consumer spending, small and medium sized, negative, large companies producing jobs. And David, just services, as I mentioned, 33,000 jobs added there. Goods producing sectors, maybe more exposed to tariffs.
Right.
Clearly, only added 9,000.
Trying to preserve margin to the best you can. And you may look to, not hire as much or let some people go.
Right. So that's a problem. We're also looking for all these alt data sources because we don't have the government data. Just wanted to highlight this one that's making the rounds. It's the shipping index, because we know manufacturing. We got the manufacturing numbers at the start of the week. We're weak. Look at some of these volumes on the Cass Freight Shipping Index. And it does lead, David Rosenberg pointed this out. He's obviously very bearish and negative on the economy, but these are all negative numbers and speak to sort of a freight recession, whether it's tariff related. Clearly export volumes are down from the U.S. and you're seeing this kind of across the different categories on shipping here, waiting for some sort of rebound if we'll get it because of all the investment coming in. But there's the overall index, and it really has been pretty sluggish.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to get the signal on the economy. Services.
I think that's the big thing. It's hard to get the signal on the economy, and whatever piece of data we get that could be either bearish or bullish, you get a knee-jerk reaction immediately by the market. By the way, we had some corporate layoffs yesterday with American Airlines, so you are starting to get a little bit more of those questions around, are C-suites essentially saying, hey, we need to cut workers, and we're going to cut them in the managerial class versus in the blue collar class. By the way, oil down 0.5% on the day. So we're seeing oil continue to get hit. Gold still up on the day by about 0.5%. And NVIDIA right here at 200. NVIDIA right here at 200. I don't know, dude. You got a lot of people calling for NVIDIA back to 180, especially after this Burry position. I mean, NVIDIA back to 180 would be discounting pretty much everything that has happened over the past couple of months, including all the stuff announced at GTC and the new revenue guidance. So could I see that happening? Yeah, I think that would be a very strong buy if NVIDIA keeps executing against the revenue that they're saying they're going to put up. And the thing is, if NVIDIA goes back to 180, like I feel like Iran, Nebius, all these guys are going to get hit as well, because the big data center play, the thing that created all the chips inside of the data centers, can't go down 20% and everything else stay alive. Like that's the thing about all these data center plays. It's like at the end of the day, it's reliant on NVIDIA. NVIDIA has to keep working for those plays to work. Those plays might move at a better alpha to NVIDIA simply because they're smaller market cap companies, but there can't be a structural problem with NVIDIA. Like if you love Iran or Nebius or CoreWeave, you have to love NVIDIA, even if you don't own it. Just like if I don't, even I love NVIDIA, but I don't love OpenAI, but I kind of have to love OpenAI, even if I don't own OpenAI, because it has to work. You're wrong on that. If NVIDIA fails to perform, it can be replaced by AMD. I do not think, I love AMD, but I don't think the MI450 is going to be the chip of choice for every single hyperscaler that is giving billions and billions of dollars to all these neo clouds to build data centers for. And also, by the way, if NVIDIA fails, AMD's failing with it. Like this is not some these things move in tandem with each other. Now, obviously they diverge if one is growing faster than the other. But if people aren't buying Blackwell, why the hell would they buy the MI450? Like AMD to me is more accretive than a separate option from NVIDIA. Unless AMD comes out with a chip that's just supremely better than anything NVIDIA can come out with. And I don't think we've necessarily seen a ton of evidence on that. But the point is, it's okay to be psychologically long NVIDIA, even if you're not long NVIDIA and you're long like a Nebius. But you do have to be honest with yourself. Like a lot of this stuff just depends on this AI revolution being intact. I think it ultimately has to be intact. Zeta's up 14. Wow. Davis will be happy today. There you go. 14% up on Zeta. Yes, Palantir is down 4%. Again, guys, I said this a couple days ago. I will say it again. Matt said this, Amir said this, Arnie said this. I have zero sympathy for anyone complaining about Palantir's price action. I just don't. I really don't. I just don't. I understand the stock was at 210. Now it's at 183. Guess what? At 210, it was expensive. At 183, it's expensive. And the stock was at 60 in January. So it's like anyone complaining about a $20 move to the downside is just not, I don't know. I think at that point, you're way too obsessed with the stock price and not really looking at the fundamentals of what happened at the quarter. You're also not looking at the reality of the fact that this company is worth $434 billion. And they're doing about 4.5 billion in revenue. Like, I know that it's been normalized, but that's not normal. And the only reason it's been normalized is because of the insane execution that Palantir has been able to put up. So I don't think they have to lose that multiple, but the lack of gratitude that they are even getting that multiple, to me, shocks me every day. And it quite frankly makes me very scared when people can't be grateful that a company's trading at 100 times sales and they have the nerve to be like, well, I'm mad that it's down. It's like people complaining about Tesla. It's like, dude, Tesla trades at a pretty aggressive multiple. Yeah, Tesla's not at $550, but the fact that it's not stuck at 200 like it was in March, you got to be grateful for the fact that it's even getting a multiple. Is it sustainable? I don't know. I have no idea. But the truth of the reality is, at let's just say the floor for Palantir is 150, or let's say 140, right? Because it was at 142 back in August. If this stock stays between 140 and 200, 140 is a very aggressive multiple. 140 is like, okay, 70 times price to sales instead of 100 times, which is, again, pretty aggressive. We haven't seen many companies ever trade at that premium, especially in the software space. So, and then maybe the PE is, 450 instead of 650. Like, all of those numbers are egregious when you look at them in a vacuum. But it has been sustained for the past 7 months. Like, it has been able to hold this 140 to 180 range. And more realistically, it's been around that 160 to 185 range for the past 3 months. And that's because they keep putting up these good numbers. So if they can keep doing that and we kind of normalize and consolidate in that range, I think that's a win. If not expand from that range, if the numbers continue to inflect. So Is it a sell? It's a sell if you don't think that the numbers can continue to grow as high as they can, because then the valuation is too aggressive. The reason I've held is because I'm like, well, wait a second. The reason I bought more before earnings, remember at 172, that I think it was like October 15th or whatever that we had that drawdown. That's when NVIDIA hit 177 as well. I mean, that's, I think it's normalizing that range. Do I think 170 is expensive? Yes. 170 is very expensive when you look at its multiples and its market cap. But I also think their execution is incredible. Now, the execution they gave on that quarter was more than I could even imagine. And that's why I continue to think it holds the multiple that it holds. I just don't understand why people aren't grateful for that. And same thing with Hood. If Hood falls today by $10, people are going to cry and complain. It's like, well, Hood is also trading at a pretty aggressive multiple. And the reason they're holding that is because of their execution. Same thing with Rocket Lab, bro. Like, Rocket Lab's not at 70 anymore. Okay, it's at 55. Rocket Lab, instead of trading at 75 times price to sales, trades at 52 times price to sales. Like, and the only reason it's not like price to sales is the end all be all metric. The only reason I'm putting it out there is because it shows you how much the street is willing to say we are okay with paying a multiple, not on earnings, on revenue. Remember, revenue is not profits. Revenue is just the gross money the company brings into the business. We're willing to pay a multiple on that at the tune of 50 times because we love this company so much. And then people become ungrateful. It's like, what are we doing here? How are we not grateful for this stuff? Bloom Energy, is that moving? Bloom is up another 11%. They had a great earnings last week. So Bloom as well, making a bit of a move right here. ASST, I know a lot of people got into that one. That's at 140, up 11% on the day. TeraWulf, is that moving as well? That was moving with Cypher. TeraWulf right here. That's down. Google did invest in both of these companies. Cypher also losing. Oh, dude, Cypher was up 15%. Cypher's losing a lot of that today. I think these Bitcoin miners as well, Iran giving a little bit of red, even though it's still 4%. I think a lot of these Bitcoin miners are also big trading stocks. I think a lot of people go up and down in these trading stocks. And, they buy shares, they sell shares, and that's also why you see some of the volatility right here. Why is Grab still red even after good earnings? I can't really explain the reason why it's red. I will say, if that is the question you're obsessed with, you got to get out of the stock. Like, it's that simple. If the number one question you're obsessed with after seeing that earnings is why is the stock red after those earnings, I don't know, dude. It's a very simple thing to just swipe up and sell. Because I am not that concerned with that. I saw a phenomenal quarter. And do I want the stock price to go up? Of course. But I saw a quarter where everything for someone who's investing in the company to eventually see the price catch up to the reality of the earnings, I saw progress. And that's what I care about. And not just progress, but phenomenal execution and progress at scale. If you think it's an opportunity cost, then sell. It's not that complicated. It really isn't, dude. And this is another reason I don't have sympathy for it. It's like, if we're going to act like children and say, oh my goodness, stock goes up, stock goes down, like, what do I do? It's like the same thing with BM&R. Like, just get out of it if it's so annoying if the price action is not going your way. Because if that's how you want to invest, where the price doesn't go your way, then okay, it's not worth being into. It's just not worth being into. It's not even shots fired, dude. It's just that's the facts. Like, if you can't see the growth in the earnings and you're afraid of the stock price not reflecting that, then you don't need to be in the name. Because, I mean, if that was the case, you couldn't have survived in Palantir for 2 years. You couldn't have survived in Hood for 2 years. Like, those were years and years of consolidation before you get a breakout. If you couldn't be in Tesla for 5 years, back from 2013 to 2019 before you got your move. Okay, now I'm a Mitt Altman. That Loki does sound like a Mitt Altman. I'm not gonna lie, that sounds like a Mitt Altman. But it's true, dude. Like, what could I say? The stock is down after good earnings. Like, what could I possibly say to justify? I don't know. I have no idea. I have quite literally no idea. People are obviously selling it more than they're buying it. And I can go through every single bull case. But the problem is you can go through every single piece of explanation, but it doesn't matter. No one cares. Like, Zelensky's freaking taking a picture with Alex Karp back in June of 2022. Same questions I was getting in my comments. Well, why isn't the stock moving? I don't know. All I know is that's good to see a public CEO go to Ukraine in the middle of a war and say our software is on your side. I think that's probably important. Grab having operating income positivity for the first time in 14 quarters. I think that's important, regardless of what the market says. And if you don't like that, then you get out of it. Same thing with Palantir, dude. Same, like if you hate that Palantir is down after great earnings, then get out. Like a lot of if the complaints are the price action, then I mean, dude, and by the way, I've taken that side of the aisle as well with PayPal. Like I was annoyed at PayPal back in 2023. I sold for like a $3,000 loss. And I said, dude, I hate this price action. I'm out of it. And thankfully over the past couple of years, at least, not thankfully for the PayPal shareholders, but for my capital, PayPal stayed flat and I put my money somewhere else and that money did better. And it was, it would have been an opportunity cost. So if you think any of these names, Grab, Hood, Palantir, SoFi after earnings, barely moving is an opportunity cost, then you get out and you find a better opportunity. Now the question is, what opportunity can you find? And if you find that opportunity and then that opportunity ends up being a little flat and then you get emotional when that stock's not moving, you're going to sell and try to find another opportunity. And then by the time you do that, the opportunities that you were in probably ended up playing out because they had some fundamentals towards them, but your impatience didn't allow you to see it through. I mean, that's the story of the stock market that I've been on the other side of so many times, and it's very gut-wrenching when you're on the other side of it. But that's how it plays out many times. So those are my thoughts. A Mitt Altman type of response. A Mitt Altman type of response. Mitt Karp. Dude, Karp was going off yesterday on the shorts. He was definitely look, okay, there is a little bit of there's an argument right here, and I will concede this, that the one critique I saw of Karp on the CNBC yesterday is look, he was asked about the shorts and he could have responded in a very nonchalant way, and he responded in a very aggressive way, which means he was defensive, right? And so I understand that critique, that he got so aggressive towards the shorts that he didn't need to be that aggressive, and that's why people think it wasn't the best. Sam Altman, super aggressive when he was asked about like, hey, your revenue, yada yada, why isn't what's all this 1.4 trillion? You're only doing 13 billion in revenue, and he got super defensive. I think those are fair critiques of both of those performances, but there is truth to some of the defensiveness, and the truth to some of the defensiveness is the annoyance that either Sam has with all the hoopla around their spending commitments, or that Karp has around the stock price going down 10% because of some short seller that wants to bet against a great American company. So obviously, if you're annoyed, at some point it gets to a point and you take it out, and maybe you take it out in public, and it maybe doesn't look the best from a public perception, but nonetheless, people can tell you're annoyed. And the same thing here. And I've been hearing this for the past month, is like, well, why isn't the stock going up? And like, yeah, it's annoying. It's like, well, I don't know. But I've been through this rodeo 2 times. And both times the earnings kept matching the execution and the price eventually followed. And that's why it's like, when you get those questions, at some point, it's like, all right, like if the price not going up is the only reason you're not, then get out. Like just it's okay to buy something else. Buy Iran, that one's moving 7% every day, up or down. Like it'll be a much more volatile ride, and maybe guarantee some more profits instead. How did his actions yesterday help shareholders? Well, I don't think he cared about helping shareholders. I think he cared about making sure he told the people that actually bought Palantir years ago, that understand why they bought Palantir, a lot of retail investors, that he's on your side. And that's why he had that rant against short sellers. Even if some people didn't like it, I liked it because I understand he was being defensive, but I also understand he was just like, dude, there are plenty of companies to short. Why are you shorting a great American company? And now you have some people that say, well, objectively, a short is not about the values of the company. It's about, does the company execute? And Michael Burry could love Palantir's mission, but he could still hate the valuation. I get it. But then it goes back down to the Bill Gates shorting Tesla arguments. Like Bill Gates is the biggest proponent of climate change, and then he's shorting the one company in the automotive space that's actually having any level of impact on clean energy. It just feels contradictory, even if, yes, Bill Gates can agree that Tesla's overvalued, but still want to fight climate change. But the perception makes him look like a dick. And that's why I think Karp went after the shareholders in that way, or the shorts in that way. But those are my thoughts. You didn't have everyone who agreed with his perception of that. Google right here, 282. SoFi right here up 1.4%. S&P 500 up 1.32%. on the day. Craig, thanks for the super chat. Palantir is going into its valuation. Only happens when earnings go up more than price. Yeah, I mean, that's another good point. As the price, this is such a good point by Craig. If a stock is trading at an aggressive multiple, the stock has to stay flat or go down, and the earnings have to go up in order for the valuation to start being grown into. Unless the earnings are going up to such a degree where, look, Palantir has good earnings, but it's not like crazy NVIDIA earnings type of growth back in 2023, where the stock price moving up still makes the actual stock cheaper. Palantir has so much growth baked into it that at this point, unless the stock goes down and the earnings go up, you don't have any level of consolidation within the valuation. So it's a good point that as the stock goes down to levels it saw 2 weeks ago and the earnings go up, you get better multiples on some of those names, which again, for long-term investors, that's what people more and more care about. VG, are we moving here? VG's up a little bit. Someone new bought VG yesterday. I forgot who bought VG. I know Sachin's in this, Matt is in this, Chris is in this. There's someone else who bought it. I'm forgetting the name of who bought it. Rebutchins. Oh, Roy. Yes, Roy. Yes, our boy Roy. Roy bought it. I typed in Roy on Legend. He bought VG. He said it's an invest and investigate play for him, which is fair. How many did he buy? He bought like 100 shares? He bought 100 shares. All right, so he's in. He's doing some due diligence on VG. Robert says, I understand you're getting annoyed because people keep asking the question. Yeah, and it's not annoyed to the point where like I'm angry or something like that, even though it was a very Sam Altman response. So I know it sounds like it's angry, but it's more so one of those things where it's like, it's a question where it's like, what can you possibly say to it? And if you ignore the question, people think you're ignoring it, but it's like, it's also like, what do you say? It's like, the stock is down, the earnings were good. What's going on? It's like, I don't know. I really don't. I can't give you a intellectual response for why, because logically the stock should go up after good earnings, especially if you think the company's undervalued, but it's not. So there's obviously more people that maybe didn't love the earnings, but then it becomes a subjective discussion on if the earnings were good or not, and that goes into a deeper qualitative analysis of the business. No one wants to have that discussion. They don't care, but they just care about the stock go up. So it's like, this is what I mean by when you're public and you attach yourself to a name, you get all the shit if it goes down, and you get all the praise if it goes up. And there's very little nuance in the middle. But the dog days of holding a stock in order to even get the glory of being the person who called it if it goes up, which is what we've seen with Palantir and Hood, is dealing with the shitty days, the dog days of it being flat, even though the earnings are good, even though the momentum is strong. And so, it's not something that gets under my skin, but yeah, it does get annoying when people ask a similar question where there is no answer other than, look, if you really do not like what you're seeing in price action, then you got to sell. Because if you keep asking that question, then, it's going to drive you crazy and probably not make people excited for it either. A non-answer question, but being a streamer, you will get many of these questions. Yeah, that is true. That's true. SoFi bulls were kind of annoyed by this year too. You questioned the stock's moving in multiple during a generational bull run. Yeah, I mean, look, but that's the point, right? And then look what happened to SoFi. It made a move. This is exactly the point that I'm trying to say. Like with SoFi, the comparison was more deeper with Robinhood. Well, SoFi was stuck at what, $10, $12, and then Robinhood was made. Again, the context of the SoFi critique is always rooted in SoFi versus Robinhood. It has never been an independent critique of SoFi because the SoFi community always, this is them doing it, not me. Objectively, I think we can agree on that. This is them doing it, not me, because there's barely even a Robinhood community to begin with on Twitter. They try to compare SoFi and Hood. So when I lean into that as the Hood guy and I try to explain why there's differences, that's when it gets into a back and forth. So when SoFi stuck at $12 and Robinhood was at like 70 at the time, that's when you make the argument that says, hey, there's a fundamental difference between this company and this company. And this is why I think the stock is now moving here. This is why I think the stock is moving here. Now, the stock has moved, which for those who held SoFi and believe in the story, you deserve to win, right? Because you held on to the stock even in the face of people critiquing it. But it has not moved as much as Hood. And that's the comparison right here. So I think there's a little bit more nuance to just say, oh, well, is Grab an opportunity cost? Is PayPal an opportunity cost? It's like, if you're saying it's an opportunity cost in and of itself, then that begs the quality of conversation around the actual fundamentals of the business. The SoFi Hood debate was always, which one is the better fintech to invest in? That was always the point of the debate. And it was a fun debate, by the way. I don't think it ever was meant to be hostile or something. It was always like a fun intellectual exercise for people to run into. The reason a lot of the SoFi bulls were really upset back when Hood was running to 70 and SoFi was stuck at $12 was because obviously they were bag holding SoFi and it wasn't moving. Now, thankfully, SoFi has moved, and it deserves to move because they put up good earnings, but it has not moved as much as Hood, just objectively. Hood has gone from 7 to 130. SoFi has gone from 7 to 30, which is a great move. It can't be undercounted. But I think it's reasonable to ask questions if you're doing a comparison between two fintechs. And one of the fintechs obviously is a name that I got deeply into. Having said that, the point is still the same, that if you were in SoFi at 7, you had to withstand the noise to be able to hold on till 30, even if some of that noise had legitimate criticism. And I think that's the same thing, that was at Palantir at 7, Rocket Lab at 5, maybe the same thing with Grab at 5. But you've got to be able to hold on in the face of that critique. Now, and this is why, quite frankly, going back to this question, I have asked many times to Tanner and Roy publicly on our podcast, do you think SoFi can make a move like Hood or Palantir? And every time they struggle to say yes, which I get it, but that's always my question because, again, 7 to 30 is amazing, but when we're comparing it against Palantir and Hood, it's like, I don't know if it has the ability to make that type of move. 7 to 100 changes people's lives. Now, 7 to 30 changes people's lives, but 7 to 100 really changes people's lives. And that's always been the question. But regardless of if it has the ability to do that, the fact that it has made a move, I think is important. SoFi at 13 was painful, yeah. And he had to, and look, I didn't join that journey when it was at those levels because I didn't believe in it enough. And so the people that are winning on SoFi, they deserve to win on that. But the context matters. I believed in a different name in the same niche that has just done a lot better, which is why I didn't believe in SoFi there. So it's just a question of like, what's the comparison if we're going to make an argument about critiquing a name that is stuck? Because if you're in the competitor of the name that does, 4 times better, there's a reason for that critique. Bree says Grab needs to make that move so my life can be changed already. Yeah, well, see, here's the thing. And maybe this is the other thing I have not articulated enough. Like, I don't know if it can make that type of a move. In fact, well, I've said my public price target is $10. I don't know if Grab is going to 50 anytime soon. But I do think it can go to 10. And I think a double in this bull market, even though it's not a 10x like those other names, is still something we can be very grateful for if it does happen. But we got to see if it actually can play out. SoFi is not painful. You guys are just impatient gamblers. I would push back against that, dude. SoFi was pretty painful for almost 2.5 years. And the reason it was painful is because everything else was moving higher. And look, if Grab is stuck at 573 by next year, I will be the first one to say that's painful. It's been painful all year already. If I had my money in Grab and something else, it probably would have done a lot. If I had just put it into Hood, it would have done better. It wouldn't have done better in the S&P, but I could have probably, if I had put it into SoFi, it would have done better. So it begs the question of, are you willing to hold on till the dog days? But with SoFi, when it was stuck at $5, $6, $7 for almost 2.5 years while Nvidia was going to the moon, I do think people would say that was painful. But if you held on to it, it's done well. Doug says, remember when Snowflake and C3 AI outperformed Palantir? Yeah, that was annoying back in 22 when Snowflake was going to the moon. Literally, Snowflake was going to the moon, even in a bear market, and Palantir was stuck. Those days were annoying. But you had to be able to withstand it. Snowflake right here, 265.73 as well. Big Bear, is that one getting any love? Big Bear, 615. That is down a lot from that 850 range it was at a couple of weeks ago. Up 7% on the day, though, so that's green. Big Bear getting a little bit of momentum. Is it me or is Ethereum slowly creeping up? Is it Ethereum 3,400? It is slowly creeping up, which is nice to see. PayPal also green today. Lemonade's still green as well. And you're seeing that move there. Yeah, Hood did announce mortgages as well. That was yesterday, which that could be a tailwind as well. I think all the banking stuff they'll talk about today on the earnings. That's going to be important. I've been on the waiting list forever for the credit card. I think they have like 450,000 people now on the credit card. It's probably going to take, I would say, look, the one thing and I'll be objective here and I'll critique Robinhood. They did not have the best communication about this credit card because they got everyone excited for this 3% credit card and then they barely gave it to anybody. You know, they have like 4 million people that signed up and only 400,000 people got it. So I will say, you know, just brand wise, it was not the best look for them to. I understand why they can't give 4 million people a credit card. Like, that's obvious to me. It's just they needed to be really clear about, hey, if you sign up, you should expect to be on the waiting list for a while. And that's obviously, you know, something that pissed people off. But they're getting out about 100,000 people a quarter onto the card, which is important. They need to fix their after-hour stuff. It's ridiculously easy to fix and tremendously irritating. Yeah, look, there's a bunch of different little things I think they need to fix in the app. And Legend still, its earnings cycle, they don't show the after-hour price on Legend, which is really annoying. And I literally told them to their faces, guys, you really got to fix this for me. So hopefully as we get into 2026, there's a lot of different things they'll be able to fix, and that'll help as well. SoFi 29.80, trying to get back above 30. And then Apple right here, 269.78. Yes, I got my card. The only reason I got my card though is because I went to the investor day. Roy and I both went to the investor day, and you know, they said anyone at the investor day could sign up immediately to get the card. Tanner was there, but Tanner's in Canada, so he couldn't get it. So because Roy and I were there, we got the card. But outside of that, I don't know if I would have been approved for it yet. A couple of you guys in the chat saying you got it. My mom got it a couple weeks ago as well. So it does seem like it's going up more. Meta 638. All right, who's buying Meta? Who is buying the Metas? I still have not fully decided. I mean, I'm still going through the numbers. Nebius right here, 117. The numbers look cheap, though. I mean, I don't know if there's any more numbers to go through. Like, there's one question on Meta, because the numbers, the multiples are all fine enough to make an investment. The argument is, will the CapEx that Zucks is deploying have any level of meaningful return on investment over the next couple of years, or will it go down the graveyard like it did for Reality Labs? And I think the street, for some reason, is really worried the best he's going to be able to do is target your ads in a more sophisticated way, and there's going to be no new line of products that are AI adjacent. I don't know if that's enough of a critique to really sit out of a $2 trillion company that's executing at a pretty strong level, doing $200 billion in revenue a year. But that is the question. Layson says I bought it $655. Benny says I bought it. Carolyn says I bought it. I'll keep buying it. A decent amount of you saying you're buying it. I think it's going to be a DCA for 2026 for me, dude. I really do. I think this one and Amazon both together, like, there's a lot of different ways I'm thinking of 2026, but these two, I think they've got to be the biggest layups of 26. And by the way, that doesn't mean the stock price is necessarily going to be higher by the end of 2026. And Meta could keep delivering really good earnings and the stock might not keep moving. But if Amazon have decided already it's like a 10-year hold for me, Meta have not really come to that same level of conviction. Amazon, the robotic stuff is what like gets me over the edge to say, hey, it's a 10-year hold. But if it's a 10-year hold, then I mean, really, who cares? Like, at that point, it's just accumulation time if it ends up getting hit bad. Maybe this forces Meta to split the stock, though. Maybe week's price action gets them to think it's time to stock split. A 10 for one split would immediately rip action for it. Yeah, I agree. The amount of call activity that would come into this name if it was trading at $60. Would you get into Netflix after? The thing about Netflix is I still don't like their multiple, dude. I understand their moat as a recessionary play, even though I personally don't love the content on Netflix. But I don't know. If you're going to pay 45, 50 times earnings, I'd rather buy NVIDIA over at Netflix. But we have to see their call premiums and how good they are when they split. See if that increases any excitement. UNH, this one has been red all week. UNH 325. Wow, below 330. Okay, so UNH continuing to get wrecked right here. As that one also going down. One thing I will say as well about Grab, I forgot to show this yesterday, is the call put rate ratio is becoming kind of insane. So just today, 12,000 calls have been traded, 725 puts. Looking at a 0.06 put call volume ratio. A lot of times, for a lot of the big names, this is closer to 0.5. So you have a lot of people hedging back and forth on the NVIDIAs, Teslas, Pounters of the world. If you look at the open interest on the put and calls, there's 2 million calls and 297,000 puts, 0.15 ratio. That doesn't mean the stock has to go up, but it definitely does signal you've got more money on the side of the bullish arguments for calls. In particular, the 650 November 21 call is like 400,000 open interest. And that could potentially be something that matters for the calls. So one actual reason why the stock could be down, outside of the Sam Altman sell your shares reason, is quite frankly, you could have market makers that want to keep the price low as they are loading up on the calls. And not just market makers, but money managers, hedge funds, etc. And they're going to let this bad boy run after the calls have been accumulated to kind of keep that put call ratio in place. But at the same time, they don't want to give it away that they're going to let it run. So they're going to keep the stock price depressed for whatever other manipulative tactics they can use until the calls are ready to print. And we've seen this happen, time and time again across a variety of stocks. Is that happening? I have no clue. That could be one explanation that's maybe more suitable for people to hear than just sell your shares. But that could be one thing that we got. Pounter 187. It was just at 182. That one getting a little bit more. Amcor was at 37. Did it lose 37? 36.50, dude. Amcor, not bad. The fact that it's back at 36.50, got a big upgrade a couple days ago. And again, this was at 30 a couple weeks ago when we discussed it. So 36.50, not too bad. The volatility of the entire market took this one down, but this one getting your recovery. BM&R 42. Okay, up 6%. Back up on the day. Amcor cover calls. I would go out like 40 to 45 for January because I think it can make a run. It's already made a good run, so maybe it stays flat. But I think a lot more people are catching on to their story. I would go far out, but it's not a name that has massive premiums anyway, so I don't think you would buy it for the covered calls. But if you do want to sell a call on it, I would go up and out and probably pick a much higher strike. Amit missed Tanner's message. Is Tanner in the chat? What did Tanner say? Oh, Amit, I bought the Axon dip. What am I missing, brother? Okay, so, wow, Axon getting a recovery. Tanner, when did you buy it? It was down 20. Now it's down 13. Did you get the bottom, dude? Did you get 570? I don't know enough about this business. All I know is the street has loved the stock for the past 5 years. And yesterday they just had an ugly miss, which is why they took them down. Star Buccaneers, I know they've been talking about Axon for the past couple of years. It basically is a monopoly in the body camera space. I don't know enough about the business to even say 600 is a good price or 570 is a good price. Like I really have not gone through their numbers. But 20% maybe was overdone. And he could have just bottom fished and potentially made a move as well. Tanner's become a trader. Yeah, I know. He's become a trader, dude. This guy's like freaking... We're influencing each other. I yelled at you guys today about this grab question because I'm watching Tanner and Tanner yells at you guys. And I take more of these random earnings trades, and now Tanner is copying me. We're literally feeding off of each other. I'm getting more grumpy, and he's getting more degenerate. That's literally what's happening right now. 564. Wow, this bro, did he actually get the bottom? The bottom was 560. Wow. Tanner the trader getting the bottom, huh? Tanner, you should have texted me, dude. I would have followed you. I would have degened with you. 564. Okay. I mean, let's 613. Stock's up. So there you go. I call him Coke Bottle. Dude, you guys have so many names for Tanner. Dude, okay, hold on. Okay, I like the thing you guys called him yesterday when I called into a show a couple days ago. And someone said Tanner looks like a movie character. And that shit had me dead, bro. Tanner, can I show the movie? We got to show the movie, bro. We got to show the movie that people said Tanner looks like the movie character. Tanner at the bottom is hilarious. Dude, this shit was hilarious. He says, go ahead. All right. They said this is who Tanner looks like. And I lost my shit, bro. Tanner had to hang up on me because of how much I was laughing. They said Tanner is the kid from the Christmas Story. I actually lost my shit, bro. Like, I legit, you know how I laugh like a hyena? It was like a hyena that was on drugs. Like when I saw this, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is Tanner. This is Tanner Manchin. Chad, I did watch. Okay, everyone thinks I didn't watch. I saw this. It was a long time ago. I remember because it was playing on, what's the TV network that played all these freaking movies? The Hallmark Channel. It was on the Hallmark Channel back when we had cable TV. And I remember seeing this shit. Now, I don't remember that much about the movie, but I remember, because as soon as he said it, I remember this little kid in the movie. I watched it. It must have been like 2012 or something. It must have been a long time ago. But I saw the movie, and that's why I made it even funnier, because like, dude, I remember this kid. And I was like, this is Tanner. This is freaking Tanner. So, yeah, that was great. That was absolutely great. Tanner has the face where you guys can find all these characters that look like him, like Ned Flanders or the teacher in the what was that thing? What was the movie? What is that thing called? Oh, The Incredibles. But like, and now this Christmas Story thing. This is the other really good one. This is the best. Yeah, someone call him the kid from the Polar Express. It's great. It's great. It's incredible. He takes it like a champ. That's what you got to. But this is also why he gets grumpy on the stream. If you guys had these many names for me, I feel like I'd get grumpy on the stream as well too. Okay, so said Jeffrey Dahmer. Oh my goodness! It's also the glasses, though. The glasses does it too. Dougie Hauser? I've never heard of Dougie Hauser. Oh my goodness. This is another one. This guy needs glasses to really make it. Dougie Hauser. Have you guys seen Dougie Hauser? I've never seen this shit. Dougie Hauser. That's how you say it, right? Dougie? Is it Doogie? Or is it Dougie? Dude, I've never seen this shit. I've never even heard of this shit. Neil Patrick. This is Neil Patrick Harris? What? Oh, I should have known that just by the face, dude. Holy crap. This was a thing, 1980. He had a sitcom in 1989? American medical sitcom that ran on ABC, totaling 97 episodes, created by Steven. I did not know this. Wait, is it Doogie? Or is it Doogie? How do you say this shit? I thought it was Dougie, bro. Hold on.
Doogie Howser.
Doogie Howser. Okay, there you go. Doogie Howser. Doogie Howser with glasses. Dude, a lot of you guys watched this thing from 1989. I've never heard of this. I didn't know Neil Patrick Harrison got his start in acting with this thing. Doogie Howser. Huh. All right, there you go. Add that to the list for Tanner. Doogie Howser. Best show ever. Chad said, yes, I watched it. June said, yes. Is it worth watching? Is it like legit? Like, is it? Doogie Howser. Wait, well, it was a sitcom, right? So it was like 20-minute episodes. Dude, I've never seen this on Netflix, never seen it on HBO Max, never seen it like licensed on like Peacock or anything. Like, I've never heard of this show. Doogie Howser. Okay. Maybe we'll it's a bit campy. I have to ask Steve. Steve's probably watched this before. Steve's probably watched it. Iran making a move right here, back into the 70s. 73, up 10% on the day. That one getting some love. Tanner, you're a good champ. You're a good champ. Tanner comes into the streams just like as a regular viewer, says, hey guys, I bought the dip on Axon and I think I got the bottom. And then we just roast him for 10 minutes. Tanner, we love you. We love you. Question is, Tanner, are you selling, bro? I mean, 564 to 607 is a pretty good move on the stock, especially if it's just a trade. Yeah, it's a 7% move, bro, on your money. Not as easy to make 7% in less than 24 hours. But maybe it's more of a name that ends up becoming a long-term play now. Doogie Howser, huh? That's what we got. Doogie Howser. Never heard of this before. Never. Literally never. Circle right there, that's up a little bit. App Lovin', that's flat. Tesla, that's flat. Palantir trying to race back up into the 188 range. SoFi, 1%. Iran and Cypher really making some moves today. Cypher back up to 12%, and Iran. Streets liking these Bitcoin data center names. Julie says, I feel super old now. Thanks, mate. You don't know Doogie Howser. Lord, I'm at Death Store. Okay. To be fair, this thing is from 1989, so it has been a minute. Second of all, it's not the most popular series. I feel, dude, okay, maybe I'm not the best barometer to decide if something's popular or not, but look at Bitcoin trying to get to 104. I have never heard of Doogie Howser, ever. And I feel like I should at least, then again, I'm a horrible pop culture reference, but maybe it's just not as part of the zeitgeist, which is why people don't know about it. Or at least I didn't know about it. I do want to watch it now. Now I'm interested. Now I'm like legit interested in at least watching an episode. It was even popular in Korea. Tanner says, I'm the same age as me, and I've definitely heard of Doogie Howser. Okay, Tanner is trying to pick up brownie points with the audience right here. There is no way, Tanner, you've heard of Doogie Howser. You're from Canada, first of all. That already eliminates your ability to hear about it. Second of all, there is no freaking way you know this show. I just don't believe that. I don't freaking believe that. Tanner, you're telling me you watched this show when you were growing up? You were born in 97. This came out in 1989. When did you have the time to watch this show? Did you time travel 9 years and go watch it or something? Because like it definitely wasn't on TV in 2007. Like it wasn't on Nickelodeon or Disney Channel. Bro, admit I was born 5 years after you and I know that show. Maybe it is just me, dude. Maybe it is just me. Ethereum, 34 hundo. 34 hundo on Ethereum. That should be helping Bitmine today. Bitmine right there, 41.77. Okay, Bitmine getting a little bit of love. Every comeback is you're from Canada. Dude, that's the best comeback. There's nothing else we can say. It's the best comeback. Chad says, God, I have kids older than you and Tanner. That is crazy. That is crazy. Dude, 28 years old. We're 20 freaking 8. 2 years from 30. It's got to be crazy as a parent, right? To raise a kid, and then the kid ends up being like, I never think about it from my parents' perspective, that like my parents have a kid that's like almost 30 years old. That's wild. But that's also the process of life. I thought Chad was like 40. I think Chad is 38, if I'm not wrong. I don't think Chad is 40. I think Chad is 38. And he joined Palantir a couple years ago and, you know, kind of left the corporate job he was at and ended up getting on the rocket ship. And now we're here. But it is kind of wild because, you know, obviously as your kids grow older, you start to reflect on just like your own life and how old you get as your kids are getting older. Meta right there, 635. Steve is 42. Steve is 42. OpenAI, more than 1 million businesses, customers around the world are directly using OpenAI. Okay, cool, Sam Altman, but like, how are you going to afford this 1.4 trillion, dude? That's the question. That is the question. Look at this, 816 billion worth of AI deals this year alone is OpenAI. Again, they're going to have to find a way to do it, but that is the number one question. ASST, that's up 15% as well. Chad is only 16. Amit, pull up a pic of Kip from Napoleon Dynamite. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is another one. Tanner, I'm sorry. There's too many. Your face is too much aligned with pop culture. It's a compliment. Okay, now this is where I'm going to embarrass myself. What is Napoleon Dynamite? Like, I've heard of the word before, or like Napoleon Hill. I've heard of that guy. Didn't he write the self-help book or some shit? Like Get Rich or Die Trying? No, that's fucking 50 Cent. No. Think and Grow. Yeah. Get Rich or Die Trying is 50 Cent, not Napoleon Hill. Think and Grow. I read this shit 8 years ago. I read it 8 years ago, okay? And it has helped me to think and hopefully get more richer. But what is Napoleon Dynamite? What is Napoleon Dynamite? Oh, it's a movie. Napoleon Dynamite is the title character of a 2004 American independent comedy film that has become a cult classic. The character is socially awkward, listless, and eccentric high school student in rural Preston, Idaho, known for his frizzy red afro, large glasses, and moon boots. Dude, I've always heard people say Napoleon Dynamite, but I'm always thinking of like, I'm not trolling. I've never seen this thing. But I never knew, like, I always thought of Napoleon Hill when people say Napoleon. And then I'm like, oh, they're talking about the philosopher or the author. Or I thought it was a show. I didn't know it was a movie, but have you not seen Napoleon Dynamite? I mean, I've never seen Napoleon Dynamite. 2004 American independent coming of age movie. Okay, don't tell Steve. Steve's going to get upset about it. I think Steve's already upset at me at a lot of stuff. He probably doesn't know I haven't seen this. Napoleon Dynamite's a movie. Okay. Amit is legit Amish. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch this one. This will be on the list. Chad says, OMG. I took away the roasting of Tanner with my inability to understand what Napoleon Dynamite is. But I'm happy you mentioned Kip from Napoleon Dynamite so I can at least finally figure out what I've never really looked at. I've heard people say this Napoleon Dynamite. I always think they're referencing Napoleon Hill. You guys know Napoleon Hill, right? The guy who wrote Think and Grow Rich. I always feel like they're talking about him, but I never go deeper enough to be like, what exactly is Napoleon Dynamite? I can throw a football over the mountains. Yeah, I just Googled that. There you go. That is Napoleon Dynamite. All right, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to take a look at this movie. Is he even a philosopher? Well, he's an author, right? He's important. Its next deep dive will be on Napoleon Dynamite. Dude, that would be funny, making a deep dive on movies that I actually watch. It's a stupid movie. Okay, well, a lot of you guys are pretty mad that I haven't watched it, so I would imagine people care about this movie. I mean, you are not serious, dude. I really have not watched Napoleon Dynamite. I really haven't. You grew up in a cave. It's a classic. Napoleon Dynamite IMDb. What's the IMDb score? Okay, 7 out of 10. That's reasonable. I feel like I can play this here without the audio. As long as the audio is not on, I can look at this preview. Is this Kip? Is this the guy we're looking at right here? Kip? Is that Tanner? Okay, I'm going to watch this, bro. I'm going to watch this. I will watch this. You'll hate it. It's crap. Okay, here's the question. Is it better than Animal Hill? That's the question. Is it better than Animal Hill? Tanner, have you seen this one? Don't lie. Have you actually seen it? I feel like Tanner's probably seen it. Tanner's probably seen this one. Because Animal House was certified garbage, bro. Let me just if I didn't make that clear enough, Animal House was absolutely the dumbest movie I've ever seen in my life. I wish I could get those 2 hours back in my life. I would do anything in those 2 hours rather than watch that stupid movie, bro. Absolutely waste of time movie. Okay, you guys think it's better. All right, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it this weekend. I promise. I'm gonna watch it this weekend. That's what I'll do. I'll watch it this weekend. Oh, did I say Animal Hill? I meant Animal House. Wait, did I really say Animal Hill? Did I just combine Napoleon Hill with Animal House and say Animal Hill? Okay, it's time to end the stream. This is getting ridiculous. It is time to end the stream, folks. We are done. We are done. Nothing's going on in the markets anyway. I mean, again, we talked about all the main headlines. AMD up a little bit. S&P up nicely off that PMI data. Tesla's flat. Palantir still down 2.4. Stock's not really moving. Hoodie after hours today is going to be a big one. I'll be live with Tanner and Roy. And we will be discussing what goes on with Mr. Hoodie. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today. We got a lot of other companies after the bell too. We got there's Hood, but there's a lot of other names. So it's going to be pretty wild on the market close. And we'll be listening. Tanner, Roy, and I will be calling in to Robinhood's earnings call again. So we'll be able to ask a question. So that'll be fun. And yeah, it should be good. But it'll be fun. Hold on. Steve just texted me. I'm about to call him right now. I'm going to call him right now and ask this question. Let's see if he can pick up. What's your question? Dude, Tanner, I don't know. I was going to ask you what's your question. Yo, Steve, I got to ask you a question.
What's up?
I'm about to end up the market close, but okay. Have you ever heard of Napoleon Dynamite?
Yes.
Is it like a classic?
Vote for Paco?
What?
Isn't that the guy's name? Vote for Paco? That's good chat.
I have no
I could be getting it wrong. It's vote for somebody that they made all the t-shirts of. This was like a huge thing.
I have no idea, but you're saying it's a legit movie. Like it's worth.
Did I say it was a legit movie?
No, I'm saying, is it worth watching? Is my question.
No, it's not a good movie.
Wow. Vote for Pedro. That's what it is.
Vote for Pedro, Paco. Yeah, I knew it was something with a Pedro. I saw it once. I mean, look, there's funny parts to it, but I wouldn't watch it again. I didn't think it was that funny.
So I shouldn't watch it over the weekend.
I mean, I think you should watch Superbad or something like that instead. I mean, ask your chat, Superbad or Napoleon Dynamite. I gotta think they're all picking Superbad.
They said Tanner looks like one of the characters from Napoleon Dynamite, so then I pulled it up and I'm like, oh, it's a movie.
Oh, that made my morning. That was hilarious.
Have you heard of Napoleon Hill?
No, that I have not heard of.
He wrote a book called Thinker, Get Rich or some shit. Okay, cool. I just wanted to know. Yeah, everyone's saying Superbad over Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, 100%. Superbad's such a better movie.
Okay, cool. All right, got it. I just wanted to know if the movie. I wanted to know if it was that. Oh, have you watched the Doogie Howser?
Doogie Howser Medical MD. That was a TV show in the 80s.
Yeah, it was a good show.
I mean, I didn't really watch it, so I can't tell you. All I can tell you is Neil Patrick Harris has gone on to do some incredible things, including How I Met Your Mother. His character Barney was freaking great.
I agree.
And he's been in some good roles.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to know if it's like that bad that I don't know what Napoleon Dynamite was, but it's not that bad.
No, don't listen. You don't even bother watching it.
Okay, but you don't got to tell me twice. There you go. All right.
Yeah, making out watching a movie.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Talk to you later.
All right,
Later. All right. Steve said don't watch it, so I'm not watching it. I trust Steve's opinion. I think I've seen Superbad a long time ago. I don't remember it too much. That is Jonah Hill in it, right? That's Jonah Hill, right? Yeah, it does. Okay, so I know Seth Rogen, Jonah Hill. I've seen this a long time ago, dude. It probably is worth watching again. All right, so we're back on the close. I have no idea what question I'm going to ask Hood. If anyone has any ideas for questions, you can put it in the chat when we start the market close. I'll talk with Tanner and Roy about their questions because we don't want to ask the same ones. But yeah, look, I think it'll be a good earnings. I don't know what's going to happen to the stock. Again, don't mean to have the sort of Sam Altman response when it comes to why stocks are not going up even after their earnings. But at its core, I just think if that's the obsession that people have after a company's earnings, they're likely not looking for a reason why the stock's not going up. They just want to be told, don't worry, the stock will go up. And maybe it doesn't. So it's one of those things where you have to ask yourself, do you have conviction on Palantir if you got it before earnings? Do you have conviction on Grab if you've been holding on? Do you have conviction on Hood? Do you have conviction on SoFi after they had an amazing quarter and the stock's hovering around $29.50 to $30? And over the long term, that conviction tends to be rewarded. But I don't know if Hood conviction will be rewarded today. I really have no idea. I hope it does for everybody. For my portfolio, I got a lot of Hood. I would love to see it go up $5-6. But if it doesn't, I'm just not going to complain because the stock was $30 in April and now it's at $130. So we will cover it today and we're going to see what we get. Trump's live at 1. Oh boy. All right. Well, Robin will be reporting 3 hours after Trump speaks. So we're going to see whatever Trump says and if that affects the markets as well. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Siege, thank you for the super chat. Why is Palantir down, bro? Just kidding. I have to join in on the fun. Yeah, dude, I don't mean to give the Sam Altman response. It's just, I feel like I've answered that question so many times over the past couple months. And so at some point, you just have to tell people if you really don't like it, then you got to pick a different name. Because those are the same people that are going to keep badgering you about the question if the stock doesn't go up. And it's like, if the stock keeps staying down, if that's the only question you're concerned about, then you don't have conviction. You're just caring about the price, which is okay. But then that means there's probably other opportunities. So that's the only reason I had that response. DA, thank you for the $20 super chat as well. Appreciate you being here. And then Matthew, thank you for the $10 super chat. Napoleon Dynamite is stupid humor done tastefully. Maybe it's worth watching, but if Steve says no, then I would trust him here. Muckabee, thanks for the super chat. Iran is about to moon. See you all in a bit. Heading to my counseling appointment. Going to talk about Iran. The fact that you are telling everyone about Iran, Muckabee, I love it. And I'm happy this name has done very well for you this year. All right, word of the day. Word of the day. What do we got? Okay. We didn't do this word already, right? Guys, did we do this word? Why do I feel like we did this word? Ineffable? Did we do this word? Why do I feel like this word is similar to what it was before? Chat says we are 20 minutes after the end. This is what happens every day. Your comments just keep it going every time. We can't get to the end. We did this, right? We did this, right? Okay, GPT's being stupid. Give me another one. Would you like tomorrow's word to have a more romantic, mystical, or intellectual energy? Give me another one, but make it intellectual. Dude, I like that. Let's see if we can get more of these intellectual words. I'll actually use those words. Sagacious. Oh my goodness. I don't even want to look at the chat. You see this iPad with the chat? See this iPad with the chat? I'm turning it off right now. You see this iPad with the chat? Boom. I'm not even looking at that shit. I'm not even looking at that one. I already know. Look at that. Look at the freaking emphasis. I said, give me an intellectual word. And it says, sure, Amit. Sagacious. Having or showing keen mental discernment and good judgment, wise, perceptive, and shrewd. Dude, I can't even use this word because every time I use it now, given the middle of the word, if I even try to seem smart when I'm using it, I already know what the comments are going to be. Her sagacious advice saved the company from making a costly mistake. Okay. Give me another one. Let's just see another one. Give me another one. Perspicacious. Dude, if this one said another thing with gay in the middle of it, I would have lost my shit, bro. I would have lost my shit. Perspicacious. Okay, I'm definitely saying that wrong. How to pronounce this one?
Perspicacious.
Okay, that was wrong. Perspicacious. Having a ready insight into things, being able to understand and judge situations quickly and accurately. Okay, so perspicacious today, and then sagacious. Having or shown keen mental discernment and good judgment, wise perception, shrewd. Perspicacious. All right, well, we got 2 words of the day. I know which one you guys are going to use. If you guys call me sagacious, it just means you're saying I have good judgment. So I will appreciate all the compliments around calling me sagacious, even though I know what you guys are actually trying to say. I think GPT is trying to tell us something. Yes, I think GPT might be trying to tell us something. It's getting ridiculous, dude. It's getting absolutely ridiculous. All right, there you go. Sagacious, word of the day. I guess the market got pretty much flat to boring over the past 30 minutes, which is why we went into this movie tangent stuff. But that's what we got. Hopefully earnings will be good today. Again, really not that much going on in the market. We had some headlines in the market, even in the market, like in the early part of the market open, like there's not a lot of headlines. We were red last night, recovering some of that. Stocks relatively flat to green. So I think we might be in a little bit of like the next 2 weeks until we get NVIDIA earnings. The market's going to try to just consolidate, but today is going to be a very big one for Robinhood. And again, it's not just Hood. It's Duolingo, Qualcomm, IONQ, ARM, Fortinet, Elf, Joby, DoorDash, Lyft, Lucid, Figma, Snapchat, FICO, Centrus Energy, Dutch Bros. Shout out to Matt Money, HubSpot, AMC, Enovix, Sezzle. I mean, AppLovin. You got a lot of names today in addition to Hood. So we will try to cover as much as we can. It's like ChatGPT knows you. I guess it's like ChatGPT knows me. I guess so. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. I will be live at 12 on Twitter Spaces. We're doing another Equity Edge podcast or episode with my boy Stock Talk, who was the one who showed me Amcor. So we're gonna have another episode. It's from 12:30 to 1 on Twitter Spaces, and then we'll be live at 3:30 with Tanner and Roy, and we'll get into it. So there you go. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you, sagaciously. That word is going to be used so many times now, so many freaking times that's why I closed the chat. I know there's nothing to do. I know there's nothing I can do about it now. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Yes, I do. Thank you for actually giving me a reminder to call. I'm legit going to call the dentist right now because I need to schedule this follow-up. But we'll do that, and hopefully she calls me sagacious. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. I'll be live at 3:30. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.